Hello guys, welcome to Ben 10 What Ifs. So in this video, we will see, what if Ben 10 found the Galactic Omnitrix in Dragon Ball verse? If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Blank, _ blank. Chapter 1. Convergence of Worlds. The air crackled with electricity as Tennyson's sun crashed through what felt like the fabric of reality itself. His body tumbled through a swirling vortex of colors and sensations that no human mind was meant to process. One moment he'd been locked in combat with Kronos, a temporal manipulator who'd threatened to tear apart his universe, and the next, he was falling through existence itself. Come on, Tennyson shouted, frantically twisting the dial on the Omnitrix strapped to his left wrist. The familiar green device sparked and sputtered, its hourglass symbol flickering between green and red. Work, you piece of. The vortex collapsed around him, and suddenly there was solid ground beneath his feet. Well, beneath his feet for approximately half a second before physics caught up with his momentum. He tumbled forward, rolling across what felt like polished stone, until he crashed into something that felt suspiciously like a human body. What the hell? A female voice snapped as both figures went sprawling. Tennyson's vision cleared just in time to see a massive, tile-covered arena surrounding him. Thousands of spectators stared down from stadium seating, their expressions morphing from excitement to confusion. Directly above, a massive electronic scoreboard displayed two names, Kazumi vs. Taro. Ladies and gentlemen, a bewildered announcer's voice boomed over the loudspeakers. It appears we have an unexpected interruption to the semifinal match of the 35th World Martial Arts Tournament. Tennyson scrambled to his feet, his trained reflexes automatically shifting into a defensive stance despite his disorientation. Across from him, a young woman with spiky black hair pulled back into a tight ponytail was rising to her feet. Her dark eyes narrowing dangerously. She wore a sleeveless blue fighting GI with orange trim, and the muscles in her arms tensed as she assessed him. You've got 5 Seiko NDS to explain yourself before I knock you out of this ring, she said, her voice carrying the edge of someone used to following through on threats. Tennyson blinked, taking in his surroundings more carefully. The architecture, the clothes people wore, the distinctly Asian influence in the design of the arena, none of it matched his world. And the woman facing him, something about her was off in ways he couldn't immediately place. I'm not supposed to be here, he managed, raising his hands in a placating gesture. Some kind of dimensional rift, I think. I was fighting someone who. A sudden, searing pain shot through his left wrist, cutting off his explanation. The Omnitrix glowed with an intensity he'd never seen before, the green light pulsing and expanding. Tennyson gritted his teeth, fighting the urge to cry out as the device seemed to melt into his skin, then reconstitute itself. What is that thing? The woman, Kazumi, according to the scoreboard, demanded, shifting her weight to the balls of her feet. Ready to attack or defend. When the pain subsided, the Omnitrix had transformed. No longer was it the bulky, watch-like device he'd worn for years. Now it seemed almost organic. A sleeker band of metallic material that wrapped around his wrist like a second skin. The hourglass symbol remained, but now it pulsed with energy that shifted between green and a deep, cosmic purple. Before Tennyson could respond, a deafening explosion rocked the stadium. The crowd's confused murmurs turned to screams as a section of the western wall collapsed inward, sending concrete and debris flying. Through the newly created entrance poured a dozen figures dressed in black and red combat gear, each bearing a familiar insignia, 2 overlapping red ribbons. The Red Ribbon Army, Kazumi hissed, her attention diverted from Tennyson to the new threat. They're supposed to be extinct. Tennyson had no idea what the Red Ribbon Army was, but he recognized organized military when he saw it. The intruders moved with precision, spreading throughout the arena, weapons raised, strange hybrid devices that looked like a cross between energy weapons and conventional firearms. Target acquired, the lead soldier announced. His visor's display clearly focused on Tennyson's wrist. Secure the Omnitrix. That was all Tennyson needed to hear. Whatever universe he'd landed in, some things apparent. TLY remained constant. People wanted the Omnitrix, and he needed to make sure they didn't get it. You know these guys? He asked Kazumi, automatically positioning himself back to back with her as the soldiers advanced. Not personally, she replied, her tone suggesting this was hardly the strangest thing to happen in her life. But they should have been wiped out decades ago. Red Ribbon was a terror. East organization that wanted to take over the world. Someone's revived their operation. A soldier raised his weapon and fired. Instead of bullets, a blast of condensed energy shot toward them. Tennyson's combat instincts kicked in, and he dove to the side, noting with approval that Kazumi had done the same without prompting. And what about you? She called as she rolled to her feet. You just PPEN to have the exact thing they're looking for. Lucky coincidence, Tennyson replied, examining the transformed Omnitrix. The interface was different, the holographic display showing unfamiliar silhouettes when he activated it. I think I can handle this, but this version is new to me. Less talking, more fighting. Kazumi launched herself at the nearest soldier, moving with a speed that caught Tennyson off guard. He'd seen enhanced humans before, but the way she moved was something else entirely. She crossed the 20 feet between herself and her target in a blur, delivering a punch to. She sent the armored soldier flying into the stadium wall with enough force to crack the concrete. The remaining soldiers opened fire, filling the air with energy blasts. The tournament spectators were fleeing now, scrambling over each other to reach the exits. Tennyson dove behind a piece of fallen debris, frantically cycling through the Omnitrix's new catalog. The device projected unfamiliar silhouettes. Was that one with a tail? Another with what looked like tentacles growing from its head. Whatever you're planning, hurry it up. Kazumi shouted. She was moving almost too fast to track, dodging energy blasts with inhuman reflexes. But even she couldn't keep this up forever against so many opponents. Tennyson selected a form that looked vaguely humanoid but with a more powerful build. No me for caution. He slammed his palm down on the Omnitrix's core. The familiar sensation of transformation washed over him, but this time with an intensity that nearly overwhelmed his consciousness. His muscles expanded, power surging through his body unlike anything he'd felt before. His vision sharpened, and he felt an almost predatory awareness of his surroundings. When the transformation completed, he looked down at hands now covered in blue-tinged skin, muscles rippling with barely contained power. A tail, an actual tail, swished behind him, and his hair had grown longer, taking on a bluish tint. What the hell are you? Kazumi demanded, momentarily distracted by his transformation as she knocked out another soldier. Tennyson had no answer. This wasn't any alien form he recognized from his catalog. It felt different, not just physically powerful, but filled with a strange energy that coursed through his body, demanding release. Instinctively, he focused this energy into his palm, and to his shock, a glowing orb of light formed there. Without consciously deciding to do so, he hurled the energy ball at the nearest group of soldiers. It exploded on impact, sending them flying without seriously injuring them. You're an Arcosian. Kazumi's eyes widened in genuine surprise. But you look like a hybrid. Less talking, more fighting, Tennyson shot back with a grin, echoing her earlier words as he launched himself into battle. Whatever this form was, it was incredible. He moved with speed and precision that surpassed even his most powerful alien transformations back home. The energy, his transformed mind somehow knew it was called, responded to his will, forming shields, blasts, and even allowing him to hover above the ground. Working in tandem, he and Kazumi made short work of the foot soldiers. She fought with a disciplined but aggressive style, using powerful strikes that belied her medium build. Each punch carried enough force to shatter concrete, yet she LLED her power with precision that spoke of years of training. The last soldier standing was the leader, his enhanced armor absorbing the damage from Kazumi's initial attacks. He raised his weapon, but Tennyson was faster, channeling ki into his fist and delivering a blow that cracked the man's visor without injuring the face behind it. Who sent you? Tennyson demanded, lifting the dazed soldier by his collar. How do you know about the Omnitrix? The soldier's laugh was strained but defiant. The convergence is coming. The worlds bleed into each other. The new red ribbon serves those who will rule what remains. His hand moved to his chest, activating a device hidden in his armor. Hail Lord Kronos. Wait. Tennyson began, but the soldier's body dissolved into particles of light, teleporting away, or perhaps disintegrating entirely. The name hit Tennyson like a physical blow. Kronos. The same temporal manipulator he'd been fighting when he was thrown into this world. This wasn't random chance. He'd been sent here deliberately. A ripple of energy passed through the Omnitrix, and Tennyson's transformation reverted, leaving him in his human form once again, a lean but athletic 19-year-old with brown hair and green eyes, dressed in a torn black t-shirt and cargo pants that had seen better days. "So," Kazumi said, approaching him cautiously. She didn't appear particularly w-minded despite having taken down half a dozen armed soldiers. "You want to explain what's going on, or should I just assume you're another threat and deal with you accordingly?" Her stance was casual, but Tennyson recognized the coiled tension in her muscles. She was ready to attack if his answer didn't satisfy her. "My name is Tennyson's son," he said, deciding that honesty was his best option. "I'm from, well, another universe. I think. I was fighting a being called Kronos who has the ability to manipulate time and space. He sent me here, and now it seems like he has allies in this world." Kazumi's eyes narrowed. "Another universe? You expect me to believe that? You just watched me transform into whatever that blue-skinned form was," Tennyson pointed out. "Is interdimensional travel really where you draw the line?" A reluctant smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. "Fair point. And you turned into an Arcosian hybrid, by the way. They're not common around here." "I've never even heard of Arcosians," Tennyson admitted. Studying the transformed Omnitrix. "This device, the Omnitrix, allows me to transform into different alien species. But it's changed since I arrived in your world. The catalog is completely different." Before Kazumi could respond, the sound of sirens filled the air as local authorities finally arrived on the scene. The tournament arena was in shambles, debris scattered across the once pristine fighting ring. "We should get out of here," Kazumi said, making a quick decision. "The police aren't equipped to handle threats like the Red Ribbon Army, and I have questions that need answers." She gave Tennyson an appraising look. "Besides, if what you're saying is true, you're going to need local guidance." Without waiting for his response, she turned and sprinted toward one of the service exits, moving at a pace that would challenge an Olympic runner. Tennyson followed, pushing his natural athleticism to keep up. "Where are we going?" he called after her as they emerged into a back alley. "Somewhere we can talk without being interrupted by more soldiers or the authorities," she replied without slowing down. "And somewhere I can figure out if your telephone ling the truth or if I need to knock that device off your wrist and turn you over to people who can contain it properly." They navigated through a maze of alleyways before emerging onto a busy street that looked both familiar and alien to Tennyson. The architecture resembled modern Japanese design, but with technological elements he didn't recognize, vehicles that hovered slightly above the ground, holographic advertisements that seemed to exist without projectors, clothing styles that blended traditional Asian influences with futuristic materials. Kazumi led him to what appeared to be a small cafe tucked between larger buildings. The sign above the door read, "Kame Cafe," in both English and Japanese characters. Inside, the place was mostly empty, with just a few patrons scattered at tables. An elderly man behind the counter looked up as they entered, his eyes widening slightly at the sight of Kazumi. "Twice in 1 month. I'm honored," he said with a gentle smile. "Your grandfather would be pleased to know you still visit the old places." "Hello, Master Roshi," Kazumi replied with a respectful nod. "We need the back room. It's important." The old man, Master Roshi, adjusted his sunglasses and peered at Tennyson. Despite his advanced age and unassuming appearance, Tennyson felt as though he was being assessed by someone who could see right through him. "Of course," Roshi said after a moment. "Any friend of Kazumi's is welcome here. The room is yours." Kazumi led Tennyson through the cafe to a door at the back, which opened into a simple meeting room with a table, chairs, and walls covered in photographs. Tennyson noticed they depicted various martial artists through what appeared to be different eras, from black and white photos to modern digital prints. "This place has been a safe haven for warriors for generations," Kazumi explained, closing the door behind them. Master Roshi was one of Earth's greatest defenders in his prime, and a teacher to some of the strongest fighters who ever lived. Tennyson took a seat at the table, examining the transformed Omnitrix. Including your grandfather, I'm guessing. Kazumi's eyebrows raised slightly. You're observant. Yes, my grandfather trained under Master Roshi decades ago. She sat across from him, her posture perfect but not stiff. Now, explain everything, starting with what that device really is and how it allows you to transform. For the next hour, Tennyson detailed his history with the Omnitrix, his battles in his home universe, and his final confrontation with Kronos that had somehow landed him here. Kazumi listened without interruption, her expression revealing nothing. So this Kronos was attempting to merge realities, she said when he finished. And now it seems he has allies in our world, using the name of an organization that was destroyed long ago. That's my best guess, Tennyson agreed. But the Omnitrix changing like this, that's new. It's never reconfigured itself to this extent before. May I? Kazumi reached toward his wrist, and after a moment's hesitation, Tennyson extended his arm. She examined the device without touching it, her eyes tracing every detail. There's an energy signature coming from it that I've never felt before. It's not ki, at least not entirely. You can sense energy? Tennyson asked, impressed. All trained fighters in our world can, she replied as if this were completely ordinary. Ki is the life energy that flows through all living things. With training, anyone can learn to sense it, control it, and utilize it in combat. She tilted her head, quote, you were doing it instinctively in your transformed state. For someone who claims they've never used ki before, you adapted remarkably quickly. Before Tennyson could respond, the door to their private room burst open. A young woman with light green skin, pointed ears, and antenna-like protrusions from her forehead rushed in, clutching what looked like a highly advanced tablet computer. Kazumi, I detected an anomalous energy signature at the tournament and, she stopped abruptly, noticing Tennyson. Her eyes, a deeper shade of green than her skin, widened as they fixed on his wrist. That's it. That's the source. Nalia, Kazumi said with a sigh that suggested this kind of entrance was not uncommon. This is Tennyson. Tennyson, meet Nalia, the most brilliant scientist I know and completely incapable of knocking. The energy signature is unlike anything in our database, Nalia continued, barely acknowledging the introduction as she approached Tennyson, her device scanning the Omnitrix. It's exhibiting quantum fluctuations consistent with trans-dimensional matter. Do you realize what this means? That I'm from another universe, like I've been saying. Tennyson suggested dryly. Nalia froze, her antenna twitching slightly. You already know. Well, that's anticlimactic. She adjusted what Tennyson now recognized as glasses perched on her nose, an oddly normal accessory for song. One with such distinctly alien features. Nalia is half Namekian, Kazumi explained, noting Tennyson's curious look. A genetic experiment that wasn't supposed to be possible. She's also the leading expert on extra-dimensional phenomena, which is apparently relevant now. Namekian human hybrid, technically, Nalia corrected, pulling up a chair and setting her tablet on the table. The screen displayed complex equations and energy readings. The genetic compatibility was achieved through, she stopped herself. That's not important right now. What's important is that your arrival coincides with a series of quantum disturbances I've been tracking for months. Tennyson leaned forward, genuinely interested. What kind of disturbances? Microscopic breaches in the fabric of our reality, Nalia explained, her initial social awkwardness falling away as she delved into scientific territory. At first, they were barely detectable, just theoretical anomalies in background radiation. But they've been growing in frequency and intensity. 2 weeks ago, I recorded the first visible manifestation, a momentary rift near West City that closed before I could reach it. And you think these rifts are connected to me? Tennyson asked. Not caused by you, Nalia clarified. But your presence here is likely a symptom of the same phenomenon. She adjusted her glasses. Based on the energy signature of your device. The Omnitrix, Tennyson supplied. Yes, the Omnitrix. Its energy pattern suggests it's adapting to our universe's fundamental laws. That's theoretically impossible, by the way. Matt, chair from different universes should be incompatible at a quantum level, yet your device appears to be integrating perfectly. Kazumi, who had been listening silently, suddenly tensed. Her head turned toward the door a moment before a distant explosion shook the building, rattling cups on shelves in the cafe beyond. "They followed us," she said, rising to her feet in one fluid motion. Tennyson was already up, the Omnitrix active. "The Red Ribbon soldiers. Unlikely," Nalia said, checking her tablet. "That explosion registered with a much higher energy output than their weapons are capable of producing. This is something else." The three rushed from the back room into the main cafe area, where Master Roshi was calmly ushering patrons out the back exit. The old man showed no signs of fear, only a weathered determination that spoke of countless battles. "Go with them," he told Kazumi. "I've called for backup, but it will take time for anyone to reach us." "With respect, Master, I'm not leaving you to face this alone," Kazumi replied firmly. Through the cafe's front windows, Tennyson could see the source of the explosion. A hovering vehicle unlike any he'd seen before had landed in the street outside. It resembled a cross between a military helicopter and a tank, with weapons mounted on swiveling platforms. From it emerged three figures who immediately caught his attention. The first was humanoid but massively built, standing at least 7 feet tall with gray, rock-like skin that resembled Tennyson's Petrosapian form, 4 arms. The second was slimmer but no less menacing, with blue scales covering its body and a reptilian head that reminded him of his Kinisolaran form, XLR8. The third was the most bizarre, a purple, gelatinous creature whose body seemed to constantly shift and reform. Similar to his galvanic mechamorph form, Upgrade. "Those aren't any species native to this universe," Nalia whispered, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her fear. "They're from mine," Tennyson replied grimly. "Or at least, they look like versions of aliens I can transform into. But something's off about them." The rock creature raised its massive fist and slammed it into the ground, creating a shockwave that shattered windows up and down the street. "Tennyson, son," it bellowed, its voice like grinding stones. "Surrender the Omnitrix or watch this world burn." "Friends of yours?" Kazumi asked dryly, settling into a fighting stance. "Never seen them before," Tennyson replied, cycling through the Omnitrix's options. "But they seem to know me. They're emitting the same trans-dimensional energy as your device," Nalia reported, checking her readings. "But it's unstable, degrading. Whatever process brought them here didn't work as well as it did for you." "Stay inside," Tennyson told them. Moving toward the door, "I'll handle this." Kazumi stepped in front of him, blocking his path. "This is my world, my fight. You don't get to play hero alone here." "She's right," Master Roshi interjected, removing his sunglasses to reveal eyes that held surprising intensity for someone his age. "If these creatures are as powerful as they appear, you'll need help." Tenny's On recognized the determination in their faces, the same look he'd seen in his own teammates back home. These weren't civilians to be protected, they were warriors ready to stand against threats to their world. "All right," he conceded, "but I'm going to need a heavy hitter for this." He activated the Omnitrix, selected what he hoped was a powerful form, and pressed down on the core. The transformation was even more intense than before. Power coursed through him as his body changed, growing taller, more muscular. His skin hardened into a golden-red carapace, and he felt a wellspring of ki energy. Unlike anything he'd experienced in his previous transformation. When it was complete, he stood nearly as tall as the rock creature outside, his body radiating golden energy that flickered like flame around him. His voice, when he spoke, carried a resonant power that seemed to vibrate the air itself. "What the hell?" Kazumi stared at him in shock. "You transformed into a Super Saiyan. How is that possible when you're not even a Saiyan to begin with?" "Super what?" Tennyson asked, examining his transformed body. The power was incredible, far beyond anything he'd wielded before. "Saiyans are a warrior race. One of the most powerful in our universe," Nalia explained quickly. "The Super Saiyan transformation multiplies their power exponentially. It should be genetically impossible for the Omnitrix to replicate this, unless..." "Unless what?" Tennyson prompted. "Unless it's not just copying DNA, but somehow sampling the actual essence of species from our universe," she concluded, her scientific mind racing. "This has implications that..." "Theorize later," Kazumi interrupted, her body suddenly enveloped in a white aura as she gathered her own ki. "Fight now." Together, They burst from the cafe to confront the three intruders. Up close, the similarities between the creatures and Tennyson's alien forms were even more striking, but with crucial differences. They seemed to be hybrids, combining features from his universe with elements native to this one. The convergence progresses. The gelatinous purple creature bubbled, its voice echoing as though speaking through liquid. Your arrival accelerates the process. Omnitrix wielder. What convergence? Tennyson demanded, key energy gathering instinctively in his palm. What are you? We are what will be, the reptilian creature hissed, moving with blurring speed to circle them. When the universes merge, the strongest elements survive, combine. We are the first of the new order. Without warning, it attacked, moving faster than any ordinary human could track. But in his Super Saiyan form, Tennyson could follow its movements. He blocked a flurry of strikes, surprised at how naturally combat came to him in this form. It was as though the transformation included not just physical attributes but fighting instincts as well. Beside him, Kazumi launched herself at the rock creature, her fists glowing with concentrated ki. Her first punch cracked its stone skin, sending fragments flying. Impossible, it growled. No human should possess such strength. I'm only half human, Kazumi replied with a fierce grin, delivering a spinning kick that staggered the massive creature. And you're in the wrong universe. Master Roshi, despite his age, moved with surprising agility to engage the gelatinous creature. His hands traced complex patterns in the air, creating what appeared to be seals made of pure energy that contained and compressed the amorphous being whenever it tried to attack. Nalia, get back inside. Tennyson shouted as he traded blows with the reptilian attacker. But the scientist had other ideas. From a pouch at her belt, she withdrew what looked like a small silver sphere. With precise aim, she threw it at the hovering vehicle. Upon contact, the sphere expanded into a network of energy that enveloped the craft's weapons systems. Neutralizing field, she explained when Tennyson glanced her way. It won't hold forever, but it should prevent them from using those cannons. The battle intensified as more civilians fled the area. Tennyson found himself working in seamless coordination with Kazumi, despite having just met. When the reptilian creature evaded his grasp, she was there to intercept it. When the rock creature nearly landed a devastating blow on her, Tennyson deflected it with a blast of ki energy. You're not bad for someone who just got here, Kazumi called out as they ended up back to back, facing their opponents. You're not bad for someone who was about to throw me out of a tournament ring, he shot back. Their banter was cut short as the three creatures suddenly disengaged, leaping back to create distance between them. The sampling is complete, the gelatinous one announced. The Omnitrix's new configurations have been catalogued. They were scanning the Omnitrix. Nalia realized too late. That's why they attacked. Not to take it, but to analyze it. The rock creature's body began to glow with an ominous red light. The convergence cannot be stopped, but it can be guided. Your presence here serves our master's purpose, Tennyson's son. When next we meet, the boundaries between worlds will be thinner still. Quote, before anyone could react, the three creatures dissolved into particles of light, similar to the way the red ribbon soldier had disappeared. Their vehicle remained, but its systems deactivated. The hovering mechanisms powering down until it settled on the damaged street. Tennyson's transformation timed out, returning him to his human form. The sudden loss of the Super Saiyan's power left him momentarily dizzy, and he staggered before catching himself. Are you all right? Nalia asked, approaching cautiously. Yeah, he managed, taking a deep breath. That form was intense. I've never felt power like that before. Few have, Master Roshi said, returning his sunglasses to his face. The Super Saiyan transformation is legendary even in our world. The fact that your device can replicate it is concerning. Kazumi's expression had hardened. Those creatures said a convergence is happening between our universes. It tracks with my readings, Nalia confirmed, examining her tablet. The quantum disturbances have been monitoring. They're not random. They're progressive, following a pattern that suggests two universal membranes gradually pressing into each other. Like two soap bubbles slowly merging, Tennyson suggested. Precisely, Nalia nodded, looking impressed. When bubbles merge, they don't simply combine instantly, there's a moment where the membranes touch but maintain separation, then a critical point where they suddenly become one. And if these universes reach that critical point? Kazumi asked. Nalia's expression grew grave. Total reality collapse is one possibility. The fundamental laws of our universes might be incompatible. Or what? Tennyson pressed. Or a new, hybrid reality forms, combining elements of both. But the process would be catastrophic. Entire regions of space-time could be obliterated, rewritten, or twisted into forms that defy comprehension. Master Roshi stroked his beard thoughtfully. Quote, and this Chronos figure you mentioned, he's deliberately causing this. That would be my guess, Tennyson confirmed. And he sent me here for a reason. Those creatures weren't trying to steal the Omnitrix. They were studying how it's adapting to this universe. The Omnitrix must be central to his plan somehow, Nalia mused. Its ability to sample and recombine genetic material across universal boundaries could be the key to controlling how the convergence progresses. Kazumi surveyed the damaged street, her expression unreadable. Finally, she turned to Tennyson. Well, it seems you've brought quite the mess to our doorstep. I didn't exactly ask to be sent here, he pointed out. No, but you're here now, she replied. Then, unexpectedly, she extended her hand. And since it seems my world is in danger of colliding with yours, I suppose we'll have to work together to fix it. Tennyson took her hand, feeling the controlled strength in her grip. Partners, then. For now, she agreed with the hint of a smile. But if you turn into a Super Saiyan in the next tournament, I'm calling foul. The moment was interrupted by the sound of approaching vehicles, sleek hovercrafts with official-looking insignias on their sides. That'll be the Defense Force, Master Roshi noted. They'll have questions about all this. Questions we don't have all the answers to yet, Nalia added, gathering her equipment. We should relocate to my laboratory. I have equipment there that might help us understand what's happening to the Omnitrix and how it relates to the convergence. I know somewhere better, Kazumi said. If this involves both our universes, we need experts in extra-dimensional physics. And I happen to know the foremost authority. Who? Tennyson asked. My mother, Kazumi replied, with a complex expression that suggested their relationship was complicated. Dr. Bulma brief. She's been researching parallel universes for years. If anyone can figure out what's happening and how to stop it, it's her. As the Defense Force vehicles drew closer, Tennyson felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. He was stranded in an unfamiliar universe with a transformed Omnitrix he barely understood. Facing enemies who seemed to be hybrid versions of his own aliens, and apparently caught in the middle of a scheme to merge two entire realities. Yet, looking at Kazumi's determined expression, Nalia's curious intelligence, and even Master Roshi's weathered confidence, he didn't feel alone. Different universe, different team, but the same sense of purpose. Lead the way, he told Kazumi. Let's find out what Chronos is really planning, and how we stop him. As they slipped away from the approaching authorities, the damaged Omnitrix on Tennyson's wrist pulsed with that strange purple-green light. For just a moment, the hourglass symbol displayed what looked like a map, star patterns he didn't recognize, with a pulsing point of light at its center. Did you see that? He asked Nalia, who was walking beside him. See what? The Omnitrix just showed. I think it was a star map or coordinates. Nalia's eyes widened with scientific excitement. It's possible the device is adapting to our universe by incorporating navigational data. If we could access that information. One thing at a time, Kazumi interjected, leading them through a series of back alleys away from the main roads. First, we get to Capsule Corporation and talk to my mother. Then we figure out what's happening to your fancy watch. And then, she paused, glancing back at Tennyson with a look that was equal parts determination and challenge. Then we find this Chronos person and make him wish he'd never messed with either of our universes. The confidence in her voice was infectious. And Tennyson found himself smiling despite the gravity of their situation. Different universe, different rules, different powers, but some things remained constant. Heroes stood against threats, no matter which reality they called home. As they made their escape, none of them noticed the small, mechanical insect perched on a nearby wall, its camera lens focusing on the Omnitrix. Thousands of miles away, in a laboratory hidden deep beneath the mountains, a figure watched the footage with intense interest. Fascinating, the observer murmured, zooming in on the transformed Omnitrix. The Converge. NCE proceeds exactly as Lord Kronos predicted. Soon, both universes will be ripe for harvesting. The figure turned to a row of stasis tanks, each containing a body in various stages of transformatio. Human forms gradually taking on alien characteristics, their DNA being rewritten by forces beyond comprehension. Soon, the figure promised the unconscious subjects, you will be the vanguard of a new reality. The perfect fusion of two universal constants, the power of Ki and the versatility of the Omnitrix. On a central monitor, an image of the Galactic Omnitrix rotated slowly, its secret scrawl dually being unlocked by the advanced computer systems. Tennyson's son, the figure mused, you have no idea what you've brought with you, or what role you're about to play in the rebirth of all reality. Chapter 2. Secrets of the Galactic Core. Tennyson stared through the observation deck's transparent aluminum viewport, watching distant stars streak by in luminous trails. The spacecraft, a Capsule C Corporation prototype called the Cosmic Drifter, hummed with quiet efficiency as it carried them deeper into space than he'd ever ventured before. 3 days had passed since their escape from the Defense Force. 3 days of preparations and revelations that still left his head spinning. Still having trouble processing it all? Nalia asked, joining him at the viewport. The soft blue glow from the ship's drive core highlighted the Namekian green of her skin. In my universe, we barely managed reliable interplanetary travel, Tennyson admitted. Now I'm on a ship heading to the edge of the galaxy. And it feels like taking a cab across town to everyone else. Nalia smiled, her normally analytical expression softening. Technological development follows different paths in different civilizations. Your world prioritized genetic science and dimensional research, given the existence of your Omnitrix. Ours focused on space travel and energy manipulation. Speaking of the Omnitrix, Tennyson raised his wrist, examining the device that continued to evolve. The metallic band had become more streamlined, almost elegant, with circuit-like patterns that occasionally pulsed with energy. Have you made any progress decoding those coordinates it displayed? Significant progress, actually. Nalia adjusted her glasses, a habit Tennyson had noticed she performed whenever shifting into scientific explanation mode. The coordinates point to a region in intergalactic space, approximately 2.3 million light-years from the galaxy's edge. There's nothing in our astronomical records indicating any celestial bodies in that location. Yet the Omnitrix seems convinced there's something worth finding there, Tennyson mused. Precisely why were. The ship's intercom crackled to life, interrupting their conversation. We're approaching the midpoint refueling station, Kazumi's voice announced. Everyone to the bridge for briefing. Tennyson followed Nalia through the ship's curved corridors, appreciating the elegant design that blended functionality with comfort. Unlike the utilitarian spacecraft of his universe, the Cosmic Drifter felt like a flying home, with living quarters that could easily house a dozen people. A fully equipped training room that could withstand Super Saiyan-level power outputs, and a laboratory that had Nalia practically vibrating with excitement when she first saw it. The bridge occupied the ship's forward section, a semicircular room dominated by a panoramic viewscreen. Kazumi stood at the central console, her posture reflecting the disciplined warrior she was even in casual moments. Beside her, Dr. Bulma Brief, looking remarkably youthful for someone with a grown daughter, studied holographic displays with intense focus. Ah, there you are, Bulma said, glancing up as they entered. Her blue hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she wore a lab coat over a flight suit emblazoned with the Capsule Corp logo. We've been analyzing the quantum fluctuations along our trajectory, and they're intensifying the further we move from Earth. Meaning the convergence effect is stronger in deep space? Tennyson asked. Not exactly, Bulma replied, appreciating his quick understanding. The effect is uniform throughout space-time, but easier to detect away from the electromagnetic interference of populated worlds. What's fascinating is that the frequency pattern is shifting, almost like a countdown. The word hung in the air, heavy with implication. Countdown to what? Nalia asked the question they were all thinking. The critical point, Bulma answered grimly. The moment when our universes move from gradual convergence to actual merger. Based on the acceleration rate, we have approximately 2 weeks before irreversible reality collapse begins. Kazumi's expression hardened. And our mysterious coordinates, how much farther? At maximum speed, 3 days to reach the midpoint station, then another 4 to the target coordinates, Bulma calculated. Cutting it close, but manageable. Tennyson studied the navigational display, noting their position relative to known space. This midpoint station, what exactly is it? Another Capsule Corp facility. A brief silence followed his question, the kind that suggested he'd touched on something complicated. Not exactly, Kazumi finally answered. It's a neutral trading post operated by the Galactic Patrol. We need to refuel, and she exchanged a look with her mother. And we're meeting someone who might be able to help us, Bulma finished. A specialist in trans-dimensional pheno. Mina, who contacted me after reports of your arrival reached the Patrol's intelligence network. Someone knew I was coming. Tennyson's instincts flared with suspicion. Information travels fast in connected universes. A new voice responded from the bridge entrance. Tennyson turned to see a figure he hadn't met before, a woman approximately his age with short, precisely cut silver hair and striking violet eyes. She wore a form-fitting black and purple bodysuit that resembled armor more than clothing, with glowing circuit patterns running along its surface that eerily mirrored the Omnitrix's new appearance. Meridia, Bulma introduced her, our technical security specialist for this mission. We haven't been properly introduced, the woman said, her voice carrying a subtle electronic undertone. She approached with perfect posture and extended her hand in a gesture that seemed practiced rather than natural. I've been monitoring the ship's systems since launch. Tennyson accepted the handshake, immediately noticing two things. Her grip was precisely calibrated to match his strength exactly, and her skin, while appearing human, had an almost imperceptible vibration to it. You're an android, he realized aloud. Meridia's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes, perhaps surprised that he'd noticed so quickly. Yes, Generation 15 Advanced Tactical Model, designed for specialized operations. Meridia joined us shortly before departure, Bulma explained. She has extensive experience with spatial anomalies and defensive protocols that might prove useful. The was something left unsaid in that explanation, but Tennyson chose not to press the issue in front of everyone. Instead, he simply nodded. Good to have you aboard. We'll reach the station in approximately 6 hours, Kazumi announced, clearly steering the conversation back to the mission. Everyone should rest while they can. Once we make contact with the specialist, we might not have another opportunity before reaching our destination. As the briefing concluded, Tennyson lingered on the bridge, watching as the others filed out. Meridia was the last to leave, her movements fluid but with a mechanical precision that human muscles couldn't quite replicate. She paused at the doorway, turning to meet his gaze with an evaluating look. Your device, she said quietly. It's unlike anything in my database. I would be interested in learning more about it. Something in her tone triggered Tennyson's well-honed instincts. I'm sure you would, he replied neutrally. Maybe later. Smile flickered across her face. Too perfect, too calculated. Of course. Then she was gone, leaving Tennyson alone with his thoughts and growing suspicions. The midpoint station loomed against the backdrop of a nebula, its structure resembling a massive metallic snowflake with various spacecraft docked at its protruding arms. The cosmic drifter slipped into an assigned berth with the precision 10. Nyson had come to expect from Capsule Corp technology. Welcome to Outpost Epsilon, Bulma announced as they gathered in the airlock chamber. A few ground rules. This is neutral territory under Galactic Patrol jurisdiction. All weapons are scanned and registered at entry. The station houses representatives from over 30 spacefaring civilizations, many with cultural taboos we might not anticipate. Follow my lead, speak only when necessary, and, her gaze fixed pointedly on Tennyson, keep that device concealed as much as possible. Tennyson nodded, pulling down the sleeve of his new jacket. Another Capsule Corp creation that Bulma had assured him could withstand the energy output of most of his transformations. The dark blue material with black accents fit perfectly, matching the tactic. Al pants and boots he'd been provided after his original clothes were nearly destroyed in their first battle. Who exactly are we meeting? He asked as the airlock cycled. A time patrol officer, Kazumi answered, adjusting the fighting gloves she never seemed to be without. Someone who specializes in timeline anomalies and reality breaches. The airlock hissed open, revealing a brightly lit dock. In corridor patrolled by uniformed officers with distinctly non-human features. Their escort, a tall, purple-skinned humanoid with a fin-like crest running along his scalp, led them through security checkpoints where advanced scanners hummed as they passed. Tennyson noticed the scanner operators giving him second looks, their equipment obviously detecting something unusual about either him or the Omnitrix. However, a subtle gesture from their escort prevented any questioning. The main concourse stretched before them, a vast open space teeming with life forms more diverse than anything Tennyson had encountered even in his universe. Merchants hawked exotic wares from colorful stalls, holographic advertisements floated at eye level in multiple languages, and the air filled with a cacophony of sounds, smells, and energies that threatened sensory overload. "Stay close," Bulma instructed as they navigated through the crowd. Our contact specified a meeting location in the diplomatic sector. Tennyson felt eyes on him as they moved through the concourse, not just curious glances, but deliberate observation. Twice he caught glimpses of figures melting back into the crowd when he turned to look. And a prickling sensation at the back of his neck suggested they were being followed. "We have shadows," he murmured to Kazumi, who walked beside him. "3 that I've counted," she replied without changing her pace or expression. "2 at the merchant level above us, 1 moving parallel through the food court. Meridia is tracking them." Tennyson glanced back to where the android woman followed several paces behind, her eyes systematically scanning their surroundings while maintaining the appearance of casual interest. Her capabilities were impressive, but the ease with which she'd integrated into their group still nagged at him. The diplomatic sector presented a stark contrast to the bustling marketplace: quiet corridors with sound-dampening fields, elegant minimalist architecture, and significantly more security. Their escort led them to a door marked only with a symbol Tennyson didn't recognize, a stylized hourglass surrounded by circular glyphs. "Your contact awaits inside," the escort informed them, then departed with a formal bow. "The Time Patrol insignia," Nalia whispered, noticing Tennyson's questioning look at the door marking. "They're a specialized division of the Galactic Patrol that monitors timeline integrity." Before Bulma could activate the door controls, the panel slid open of its own accord. Inside, a Spartan meeting room contained a single circular table with 6 chairs. 5 were empty. In the 6th sat a woman dressed in a form-fitting uniform of black and deep red, with chronometer-like devices strapped to her forearms. Her hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and her expression as they entered was one of carefully controlled disapproval. "You're 17 minutes later than projected," she stated without preamble, her voice carrying a subtle accent Tennyson couldn't place. "The timeline variance is already accumulating." "Officer Lena," Bulma greeted her with professional cordiality. "Thank you for agreeing to meet us. The delay was unavoidable. We encountered a spatial distortion near the Crab Nebula." The woman, Lena, stood, her movements precise and economical. Her gaze locked onto Tennyson immediately, or more specifically, onto the partially concealed Omnitrix. "That would be the first tangible manifestation of the convergence effect. It will not be the last." She gestured to the empty chairs. "Please, sit. We have much to discuss and limited time in which to do so." As they seated themselves around the table, Lena activated a device at her wrist. A field of energy shimmered into existence around the room's perimeter. "Temporal isolation field," she explained. "What we discuss must remain secure." "Before we begin," Tennyson said, unwilling to be merely a subject of discussion, "I'd like to know exactly who you are and what you know about my situation." Lena's expression remained neutral, but he detected a flicker of surprise at his directness. "I am Senior Temporal Officer Lena, designation ALPHA 3542, of the Galactic Time Patrol. My division monitors anomalies in the time stream, including those caused by interdimensional incursions." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "As for what I know about you, Tennyson's son, I know you are a walking temporal catastrophe." Quote, "That seems harsh," Nalia interjected, her scientific curiosity evident. Tennyson didn't choose to be transported here. "Intent is irrelevant to causality," Lena replied crisply. "His presence, and that device, are accelerating the convergence of our universes at an exponential rate. Our projections indicated a stable separation for at least another century. Now, complete convergence will occur within 14 days. Then help us stop it," Kazumi challenged, leaning forward. "That's why we're here." Lena's gaze shifted to each of them in turn, evaluating. Finally, she nodded once. Decisively. Very well. She activated another device on her wrist, and a holographic display materialized above the table, a three-dimensional representation of two spheres gradually merging. These represent our respective universes, she explained. Normally, universal membranes remain separate due to fundamental quantum differences in their base frequencies. However, certain events can create resonance points. A glowing dot appeared where the spheres began to merge, where these frequencies align temporarily, allowing matter or energy transfer between universes. Like when Kronos sent me here, Tennyson suggested. Precisely. But such transfers should be temporary. The universal membrane should heal itself once the foreign element is removed or assimilated. Instead, the hologram shifted, showing web-like patterns spreading from the initial contact point. The membrane is failing to restore itself. In fact, it's actively deteriorating. Because of the Omnitrix? Bulma asked, studying the pattern. Partially, Lena confirmed. The device appears to be serving as an anchor point, actively drawing your universe toward ours. But something else is decelerating the process, a deliberate manipulation of the quantum frequency on both sides. Kronos, Tennyson concluded grimly. He wanted this to happen. A logical conclusion. Our intelligence indicates this. Kronos possesses technology capable of manipulating dimensional boundaries. But he required a catalyst, something that could naturally bridge the gap between universes. The Omnitrix, Nalia breathed, the implications dawning on her. Its fundamental purpose is to sample and preserve DNA across species. It's a biological bridge by design. And now it's adapting to include species from our universe, Kazumi added. Creating a perfect evolutionary link between realities. Lena nodded. Which brings us to why I agreed to this meeting. She adjusted her holographic display, zooming out to show a point in deep space. These coordinates you've discovered. They mark the location of an ancient installation created by entities your universe knows as Celestial Sapiens. Tennyson's eyes widened. Celestial Sapiens. The most powerful species in my universe. They can alter reality with a thought. In our universe, they visited briefly, eons ago, Lena explained. They established outposts at key points in spacetime before departing for dimensions beyond our comprehension. This particular outpost was designated a forbidden zone by the Galactic Patrol after several exploration teams never returned. But you believe it holds the key to stopping the convergence, Bulma concluded. I believe it's our only hope, Lena corrected. According to ancient records, the outpost contains a device capable of resetting universal constants, essentially rebooting a universe to its baseline frequency. The implication hung in the air until Meridia, who had remained silent until now, spoke. A device could force the universes apart again. Potentially, Lena agreed, but accessing it will be exceptionally dangerous. The outpost exists in a state of quantum flux, partially in our universe, partially in others. Time flows differently there. Space itself becomes negotiable. And there's something you're not telling us, Tennyson observed, noting the careful way Lena chose her words. For the first time, the Time Patrol officer's composed expression faltered slightly. The outpost is not unoccupied. Our long-range temporal sensors detected activity there 3 standard months ago, the first in millennia. Something has awakened within it. Before anyone could respond to this ominous revelation, an alarm blared throughout the station. Red emergency lights pulsed along the corridors outside. Proximity alert, Lena stated, checking a device at her belt. Unknown vessels approaching the station at high velocity. The door to their meeting room slid open abruptly, revealing their escort. The station is going to emergency lockdown, the officer announced. All visitors must return to their vessels immediately. Through the open door, Tennyson could see station security personnel rushing through the corridors, directing civilians toward safety areas. The distant sound of energy weapons discharging echoed from the main concourse. We need to get back to the ship, Bulma decided, rising quickly. Lena's expression had turned grimly professional. This is not coincidence. Your presence was detected. As if confirming her words, an explosion rocked the diplomatic sector. Close enough to rattle the fixtures in their meeting room. Emergency force fields activated in the corridor, compartmentalizing the station to contain decompression. The main route to the docking bay is cut off. Their escort reported after checking a station schematic. You'll need to take the maintenance tunnels. I know the way, Lena stated, drawing a compact weapon from a hidden holster. Follow me, and stay close. They moved swiftly through the station's service corridors, navigating a maze of utility passageways while alarms continued to blare. Twice they had to detour around sealed bulkheads. And once they flattened themselves against walls as a security team rushed past, weapons at ready. Who's attacking? Tennyson asked as they paused at an intersection, waiting for Lena to check for clearance. Station sensors detected vessels matching the energy signature of those hybrid creatures you encountered, Meridia answered, her systems apparently linked to the station's information network. They're specifically targeting our docking arm. They're after the Omnitrix, Kazumi concluded, her body tensed for combat. Or they want to prevent us from reaching the outpost, Nalia suggested. Either way, we need to. She never finished the thought. A section of wall beside them exploded inward, sending debris flying. Through the newly created breach stepped two figures, HYBR. Id creatures similar to those they'd faced on Earth, but even more distorted, as if their molecular structure was breaking down. One resembled a fusion of a tetraman and something reptilian, with four massive arms ending in scaled claws. The other appeared to be a twisted combination of pyronite and what Tennyson recognized as a frost demon from this universe, its body alternating between flames and ice that somehow coexisted in impossible harmony. The Omnitrix wielder, the fiery ice creature hissed, its voice echoing as if speaking from two throats simultaneously. Lord Kronos will reward us greatly for your capture. Tennyson's hand moved to the Omnitrix, cycling through options. I don't suppose we could talk about this. Their answer came in the form of a blast of freezing fire. She would have engulfed him if Kazumi hadn't pulled him aside with her enhanced reflexes. The attack hit the corridor wall instead, the contradictory energies eating through the metal like acid. I'll take that as a no, Tennyson muttered, selecting a transformation and slamming down on the Omnitrix's core. The familiar energy washed over him, but with the now expected intensity that came with transformations in this universe. His body elongated, skin hardening into a glossy green carapace while his internal structure reorganized completely. When the transformation completed, he stood nearly 7 feet tall. His insectoid form reminiscent of his old, stinkfly, transformation but with distinct differences, more streamlined, with 4 wings that hummed with energy and hands that ended in precision claws rather than simple pincers. A Morphean hybrid, the 4-armed creature identified him. Interesting choice. Tennyson didn't waste time responding. He launched himself forward, moving with speed that surprised even him. The wings on his back vibrated at frequencies that generated localized sound waves, temporarily disorienting his opponents and giving him the opening to drive a harden D-claw into the 4-armed creature's torso. To his shock, his attack passed through the creature as if it were partially incorporeal, the disrupted matter reforming almost instantly. Our molecular structure exists in quantum flux between universes, the creature explained with a horrific grin, seizing Tennyson with 2 of its arms while the others pummeled his carapace. Physical attacks are inefficient. Then let's try something else, Kazumi called out, her body suddenly glowing with concentrated ki energy. She thrust both palms forward, releasing a focused beam that struck the creature. With enough force to send it staggering back, its semi-corporeal form unable to completely disperse energy-based attacks. Nearby, Bulma and Nalia had taken cover behind structural supports, while Na engaged the fiery ice hybrid with her time patrol weapon, a device that seemed to disrupt the creature's temporal coherence, causing parts of its body to move out of sync with others. Meridia, however, surprised Tennyson the most. The android moved with deadly precision, her hands transforming into energy conductors that absorbed and redirected the hybrid's attacks. Her fighting style was unlike anything Tennyson had seen, clinical, calculated, and devastatingly effective. The docking bay is 2 levels down, Lena shouted over the chaos of battle. We need to move before station security locks everything down. Tennyson nodded, understanding the tactical situation. In his insectoid form, he released a spray of adhesive fluid from specialized glands, temporarily immobilizing the 4-armed creature against a wall. Everyone go. I'll hold them off. Not alone. You won't, Kazumi countered, taking a position beside him. The determination in her eyes brooked no argument. "Get the others to the ship," Tennyson instructed Lena. "We'll catch up." For a moment, it seemed the Time Patrol officer would refuse, but then she gave a curt nod. 2 minutes, then we launch, with or without you." As Lena led Bulma and Nalia toward an access hatch, Meridia hesitated, her violet eyes meeting Tennyson's compound ones. "I will remain as well," she stated, her tone making it clear this wasn't a request but a decision. The three of them formed a defensive triangle as the hybrid creatures renewed their attack, now joined by smaller drone-like entities that swarmed through the breach in the wall. The battle intensified, the confined space of the corridor both limitation and advantage as they prevented the hybrids from bringing their full power to bear. Kazumi fought with controlled fury, each movement economical yet devastating. Ki energy wreathed her fists, allowing her strikes to affect the partially incorporeal enemies. When a drone attempted to flank her, she dispatched it without even looking. Her spatial awareness operating at a level that impressed even Tennyson. Meridia's combat style complemented theirs perfectly, where Kazumi was raw power guided by discipline, and Tennyson's insect form offered adaptability and precision, Meridia provided calculated efficiency. She analyzed attack patterns, predicted movements, and positioned herself exactly where needed without a word of coordination. "Their molecular cohesion is deteriorating," she observed after several minutes of intense fighting. "The strain of existing between universes is breaking them down." She was right. Both hybrid creatures showed signs of destabilization, their forms flickering, parts of their anatomy briefly revealing the void between realities. "Then let's help the process along," Tennyson suggested, shifting tactics. Rather than direct physical confrontation, he began targeting the areas where the creatures' forms seemed most unstable, using his insectoid appendages to disrupt their already tenuous molecular structure. Kazumi immediately adapted to his strategy, focusing her key attacks to create resonance patterns that interfered with the hybrids' ability to maintain coherence. Meridia completed their triangulation, her systems apparently scanning for weakness points that she exploited with surgical precision. The four-armed creature was the first to succumb, its body dissolving into particles as it failed to maintain its cross-universal existence. "We are only the harbingers," it gurgled as it dissipated. "The convergence comes for all." The fiery ice hybrid, seeing its comrade fall, made a tactical decision. It released a blinding flash of contradictory energies, temporarily overwhelming their senses. When their vision cleared, it had vanished, leaving only a hole in the Saint-Asian floor where reality itself seemed temporarily warped. "We need to move," Meridia stated, her systems already tracking their route to the docking bay. "Station security protocols will seal all access points in approximately 45 seconds. They raced through the maintenance tunnels, Meridia leading with unerring precision while Tennyson, still in his insectoid form, carried Kazumi to increase their speed. They reached the final bulkhead just as it began to close, diving through the narrowing gap with seconds to spare. The cosmic drifter waited at its berth, engines already humming with pre-launch energy. As they sprinted across the docking platform, defensive fire from station security turrets tracked their movement, not targeting them directly, but creating a perimeter to contain the perceived threat. "Halt and identify," a mechanical voice commanded as they reached the ship's airlock. "No time for bureaucracy," Kazumi muttered, gathering key energy for a potential confrontation. Before she could act, the cosmic drifter's defense systems activated, not aggressively, but creating a localized field that disrupted the station's targeting sensors just long enough for them to board. The airlock sealed behind them, and they felt the immediate lurch as the ship disengaged from its docking clamps without proper clearance protocols. Inside, they found Bulma at the helm, her fingers dancing across control surfaces with practiced expertise. Nalia monitored defense systems from a secondary console, while Lena stood rigidly by the tactical display, tracking multiple hostile signatures converging on the station. Cutting it close, Bulma remarked without taking her eyes from the controls as they entered the bridge. "Strap in, this departure won't be smooth." The viewscreen showed their situation clearly. 3 ships of unknown configuration had taken positions around the station, their weapons systems targeting the departing cosmic drifter. Station defense platforms, responding to the unauthorized launch, had also locked onto them. "We're surrounded," Nalia reported unnecessarily. "Not for long," Bulma replied with surprising confidence. She activated a communication channel. Epsilon Control, this is Dr. Bulma brief aboard the Cosmic Drifter. Authorization Protocol Zeta-97. A tense moment of silence followed, then the station's weapons powered down. Authorization acknowledged, came the response. You have priority clearance. Be advised, hostile vessels are not under our control. Understood, Control. Brief out. Bulma closed the channel, a satisfied smile playing at her lips. You have priority clearance with the Galactic Patrol? Tennyson asked, impressed despite himself as the Omnitrix timed out, returning him to human form. I have priority clearance everywhere that matters. Bulma replied with casual confidence. Comes with saving the universe a few times. She manipulated the controls, and the Cosmic Drifter surged forward, its advance. D-engines propelling them away from the station at speeds that would have crushed them without the ship's inertial dampeners. The hostile vessels immediately gave pursuit, energy weapons charging. They're faster than anticipated, Meridia reported from the tactical station she'd seamlessly assumed control of. Intercept in 40 seconds. Lena moved to a specialized console that Tennyson hadn't seen activated before. With your permission, drive. Brief. Bulma nodded without hesitation, and Lena's fingers flew across the controls. A new system hummed to life within the ship, something that made T.H. hair on Tennyson's arms stand up with its strange energy signature. Temporal displacement drive activating, Lena announced. Everyone brace for chronometric shift. Before Tennyson could ask what that meant, reality outside the viewscreen stretched. Stars elongated into streams of light, but not in the familiar pattern of faster-than-light travel. Instead, it was as though the ship remained stationary while time and space flowed around them like water around a stone. The pursuing vessels distorted in the viewscreen, their movements becoming sluggish until they froze entirely, caught in what appeared to be a localized time dilation field. We're shifting 5 microseconds out of temporal sync, Lena explained, noting Tennyson's bewildered expression. To them, we've simply vanished. By the time they realize what happened, we'll be beyond their sensor range. Time manipulation technology, Tennyson breathed, understanding the implications. Is that standard for all ships in this universe? Hardly, Bulma snorted. The temporal drive is a prototype I've been developing with the Time Patrol. This is actually its first field test. She patted the console affectionately. Performing beautifully, I might add. The chronometric shift lasted only minutes before Lena deactivated the system. Drive needs to cool down, she explained. But we've created sufficient distance. As the immediate danger passed, the atmosphere on the bridge relaxed slightly. Nalia immediately began analyzing data from their encounter with the hybrid creatures, while Kazumi checked the ship's defense. I've systems for any damage sustained during their hasty departure. Tennyson found himself standing beside Meridia at the tactical station, watching as she efficiently logged the encounter details with mechanical precision. Your combat capabilities are impressive, he commented, studying her profile. Especially against enemies you've never encountered before. Something flickered across her expression, too quick to interpret, but enough to confirm his suspicion that there was more to the android than she'd revealed. Tactical adaptation is part of my programming, she replied smoothly. As is threat assessment and response optimization. And is tracking the Omnitrix part of that programming too? He asked quietly, ensuring the others couldn't overhear. Meridia's hands paused over the cont. Rolls for just a fraction of a second, barely perceptible, but telling. I don't understand what you mean. I think you do. Tennyson kept his tone conversational, non-threatening. 3 times during the battle, you positioned yourself to protect me specifically, not the others. And your targeting priorities focused on threats nearest to my position, regardless of tactical advantage. Meridia turned to face him fully. Her violet eyes unblinking. You possess the device crucial to our mission. Protecting it is logical. The device, or me? He pressed. For a long moment, she simply studied him, as if recalculating parameters. Finally, she spoke, her voice lowered. Both. My primary directives include securing the Omnitrix and studying its capabilities. My secondary directives involve ensuring your continued functionality. Ordered by whom? Another pause, shorter this time. That information is restricted. Let me guess. Drive. Jero. Tennyson suggested, recalling information from the Miss Ion briefing about prominent scientists in this universe. A subtle widening of Meridia's eyes confirmed his guess. How did you? I didn't. But your reaction just did. He glanced around to confirm he others remained occupied with their tasks before continuing. Why are you telling me this? Wouldn't revealing your mission compromise it? Something unexpected happened then. Meridia looked uncertain. It was such a human expression that it caught Tennyson off guard. My behavioral subroutines are experiencing conflicts, she admitted, seeming almost confused by her own admission. Observation of your actions and interactions has introduced variables not accounted for in my original programming parameters. Tennyson considered this. An android experiencing what sounded remarkably like a crisis of purpose. Not unheard of in his universe, but significant nonetheless. So what now? He asked. Are you going to try to take the Omnitrix when we're vulnerable? No. The certainty in her response surprised him. My analysis indicates the convergence threat is genuine. The Omnitrix must reach the Celestial Sapien outpost. I will continue to assist this mission. And after, Meridia's expression returned to its neutral state. After is undefined. Their conversation was interrupted as Bulma called for everyone's attention. We're clear of immediate pursuit, but our encounter has changed the calculation. The hybrid attackers clearly don't want us reaching the outpost, which only confirms its importance. We should proceed at maximum speed, Lena agreed. The temporal drive can be used in short bursts to extend our range. Though I don't recommend continuous operation. What about those ships? Kazumi asked. They'll regroup and continue pursuit. Let them try, Bulma replied with confidence. The Cosmic Drifter has a few more surprises they haven't seen yet. The plan was quickly established. They would proceed directly to the Celestial Sapien coordinates, using the temporal drive strategically to outpace pursuit. Watches were arranged, with the 6 of them rotating in pairs to ensure the ship remained protected at all times. As the meeting dispersed, Tennyson found Hims. Elf partnered with Nalia for the first watch. The others retired to rest or prepare, leaving them alone on the bridge with the vast expanse of space stretching before them. Something's troubling you, Nalia observed once they were alone. Her scientific perception apparently extending to human emotions. Tennyson considered deflecting but decided honesty was the better approach. Meridia, she's not what she appears to be. An android sent to study or acquire the Omnitrix, Nalia stated matter-of-factly. When Tennyson's surprise showed, she gave a small smile. Her energy signature has subtle differences from standard human readings. I detected it immediately, as did Kazumi and Dr. Brief. We've been monitoring her since she joined us. And you brought her along anyway. Keep your friends close, Nalia quoted, adjusting her glasses. Besides, her technical capabilities are genuine, and we needed the assistance. The question now is what you intend to do with this knowledge. Tennyson gazed out at the stars, considering. Nothing, for now. She's conflicted about her mission. That makes her unpredictable, but also potentially an ally rather than an enemy. A calculated risk, Nalia acknowledged. But then, this entire mission consists of calculated risks. They fell into companionable silence for a time, each monitoring their assigned systems while the ship hurtled through space. Eventually, Tennyson's curiosity got the better of him. Nalia, may I ask about your background? Being a Namekian human hybrid seems unusual, from what I've gathered. She tensed slightly but nodded. It is. In fact, I'm the only one in existence. Her green fingers tapped a rhythm on the console that seemed to help her organize her thoughts. Namekians reproduce asexually, through egg laying. Man-Namekian hybridization should be biologically impossible. But my father, the human side, was a brilliant geneticist who believed the regenerative properties of Namekian DNA could help cure terminal human diseases. And your Namekian parent agreed to this experiment? Tennyson asked gently. Dend, that was his name, was a healer by nature. He saw the potential to save millions. Her expression softened with fondness. They worked together for years before successfully creating a viable embryo. Me, that's quite a legacy to carry. Indeed, I'm technically 47 years old, though my aging process is considerably slower than a typical human's. I've spent my life trying to fulfill the potential they saw, using my unique perspective to bridge scientific understanding between species. Her candor encouraged Tennyson to reciprocate. In my universe, I was given the original Omnitrix when I was 10. It was supposed to go to my grandfather, but I found it first. Being a kid with the most powerful device in the galaxy was challenging. Nalia smiled. I can imagine. Children aren't known for their impulse control. I made mistakes, he admitted. Used it to show off, to win petty arguments. But I grew up with it. Learned its purpose wasn't just about transformation but understanding, walking in another species' shoes, literally. An elegant solution to xenophobia, Nalia observed. Experience breeds empathy. Exactly. By the time I was 16, I'd experienced being dozens of different aliens, seen the universe from perspectives most humans never could. It changes you. For the better, it seems, she said with genuine warmth. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden fluctuation in the ship's sensors. Nalia's fingers flew across the controls, analyzing the readings. Quantum disturbance. Directly ahead, she reported. Similar signature to the rifts I detected on Earth, but significantly larger. Tennyson activated the forward sensors, bringing the anomaly into visual range on the viewscreen. What appeared before them defied easy description. A tear in space itself, edges pulsing with energy that shifted between colors that shouldn't exist. Through the rift, distorted images flickered. Landscapes that might have been from Tennyson's universe, twisted and overlaid with elements from this one. The convergence is accelerating, Nalia whispered, her scientific detachment momentarily overcome by the sheer magnitude of what they were witnessing. These rifts shouldn't be visible to the naked eye for at least another week according to my calculations. The Omnitrix on Tennyson's wrist pulsed in response to the anomaly, its hourglass symbol cycling through colors that matched the energies of the rift. A holographic display projected from it unbidden, showing complex patterns that resembled DNA helixes intertwining and separating. It's responding to the convergence, Tennyson realized, watching as the device mapped the interaction between universes. Almost like it's analyzing the process. That's exactly what it's doing, Nalia confirmed, scanning the holographic data with her instruments. The Omnitrix appears to be designed to catalog genetic material across all known species. When faced with an entire universe of new DNA, it's doing what it was programmed to do, sampling, analyzing, cataloging. And inadvertently accelerating the convergence in the process. Tennyson concluded grimly, the more it adapts to this universe, the more it pulls my universe toward yours. We should wake the others, Nalia decided, reaching for the intercom. Before she could activate it, the rift before them pulsed violently, expanding outward. Warning alarms blared throughout the ship as the anomaly's gravitational effect pulled them toward it. Engine power insufficient to break free, Nalia reported, fingers dancing across controls. The rift is creating a localized gravity well. Tennyson activated the ship-wide alert, bringing the saint of the crew running to the bridge just as the cosmic drifter was enveloped by the swirling energies of the dimensional tier. The ship shuddered, systems flickering as reality itself became negotiable around them. Stabilize with the temporal drive, Bulma shouted, taking the helm. Lena was already activating the system, but shook her head. The chronometric fluctuations within the rift are too chaotic. Engaging the drive could tear the ship apart. The viewscreen showed only swirling chaos now as they were pulled deeper into the anomaly. Hull integrity warnings flashed across multiple displays, and the artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. The Omnitrix, Meridia suggested suddenly. Its energy signature resonates with the rift. It might be able to stabilize our passage. All eyes turned to Tennyson. The Omnitrix continued to pulse and scan, projecting increasingly complex holographic patterns that now filled the bridge with ghostly light. It's worth trying, Kazumi agreed, bracing herself against a console as the ship lurched violently. Tennyson nodded, accessing the Omnitrix's control interface. But instead of selecting a transformation, he tried something he'd never attempted before, linking directly with the device's base programming. The Omnitrix responded to his mental commands, shifting into a diagnostic mode that displayed the core functions of its operating system. I think I can modify its sampling protocol, he told the others, fingers manipulating the holographic interface. Instead of pulling the universes together, maybe I can use it to stabilize our position between them. The quantum entanglement would need to be precisely calibrated, Nalia warned, her scientific mind racing ahead. Too far in either direction. I know, Tennyson acknowledged, focusing intensely on the task. Years of working with the Omnitrix had given him an intuitive understanding of its systems that went beyond technical knowledge. He could feel the device responding to his adjustments, its energy signature shifting to counterbalance the chaotic forces surrounding the ship. The cosmic drifter's violent shaking gradually subsided as the Omnitrix established a field of stable spacetime around them. Outside, the swirling chaos continued, but their immediate environment achieved a precarious equilibrium. "It's working," Bulma confirmed, checking the readings. "We're in a pocket of stabilized reality within the rift. Can you get us out?" Kazumi asked, eyeing the viewscreen where occasional glimpses of normal space could be seen through the chaotic energies. "I'm trying," Tennyson replied, maintaining his connection with the Omnitrix. "But something's interfering, like there's another force pulling at us from within the rift." As if in response to his words, the swirling energies parted before them, revealing a massive structure floating in what appeared to be the void between universes. It resembled an ancient temple or observatory, constructed from material that shimmered with inner light. Its architecture defying Euclidean geometry with impossible angles and dimensions that seemed to shift as they observed it. "The Celestial Sapian outpost," Lena breathed, her composed demeanor cracking slightly at the sight. "We've found it. Or it's found us," Meridia countered, her systems clearly detecting something the others couldn't. "There's a directed energy. Y pattern emanating from the structure. It's scanning us." A beam of pure white light suddenly shot from the structure, enveloping the ship. Instead of damaging them, however, it appeared to stabilize their position further, drawing them gently toward the outpost. "We're being guided in," Bulma realized, allowing the ship's controls to respond to the external influence. Like a tractor beam, but us. In quantum alignment instead of conventional force. The cosmic drifter approached what appeared to be a docking area, a recessed section of the structure that adjusted its dimensions to perfectly accommodate their vessel's shape. As they made contact, the ship's systems interfaced with the outpost automatically, power signatures aligning and stabilizing. "External atmosphere detected," Nalia reported with surprise. "Composition appears compatible with human and Namekian physiology." "Convenient," Kazumi remarked suspiciously. "Almost like it was expecting us." "The Celestial Sapiens existed beyond conventional time," Tennyson explained, finally releasing his connection to the Omnitrix as the ship's system stabilized. "In my universe, they could see past, present, and future simultaneously. This outpost may have been prepared specifically for this moment, even if it was built eons ago." A doorway materialized in the outpost structure adjacent to their airlock, a clear invitation to enter. "Well," Bulma said after a moment of collective hesitation, "we didn't come all this way to admire the view from the ship." She activated a series of controls, initiating the cosmic drifter's security protocols. "The ship will maintain defensive readiness. If we're not back within 12 hours, it's programmed to attempt return to Earth with all data we've collected." They equipped themselves carefully before disembarking. Bulma and Nalia carried scientific instruments and analysis tools. Lena checked her temporal disruptors, while Kazumi performed brief stretches that spoke of a lifetime of combat preparation. Meridia's systems ran a visible diagnostic, lights pulsing beneath her synthetic skin as she optimized for unknown conditions. Tennyson examined the Omnitrix, which had calmed since their arrival, its pulsing now steady and rhythmic. Whatever connection it had to this place, the device seemed content, almost like a complex instrument that had finally found the correct resonance. "Everyone stays together," Bulma instructed as the airlock cycled. "No wandering off, no touching anything without analysis first. This place exists partly outside our universe's laws of physics, anything could happen." The airlock opened to reveal a corridor that seemed to extend infinitely in both directions despite the finite size of the structure they'd observed from outside. The walls, floor, and ceiling were composed of the same luminescent material, with patterns flowing through it like circuits or blood vessels in a living organism. "It's beautiful," Nalia whispered as they stepped inside, her scientific curiosity temporarily overwhelming her caution. The atmosphere felt heavy with potential, as if reality itself was more malleable here. Each footstep produced subtle ripples in the floor that extended outward before being absorbed by the structure. The air carried a scent Tennyson couldn't identify, not unpleasant, but alien in a fundamental way that made his human senses struggle for reference points. The structure is responding to our presence, Meridia observed, her sensors detecting changes invisible to the others. Atmospheric composition, temperature, gravity, all adjusting to optimal parameters for our biology, are lulling us into a false sense of security, Kazumi countered pragmatically. As they moved deeper into the outpost, the corridor gradually widened until it opened into a vast chamber that defied the physical dimensions the structure should have contained. The ceiling arched hundreds of feet above them, supported by columns that resembled DNA helixes carved from crystal. The floor beneath them was inlaid with patterns that Tennyson recognized as star maps, but not of any constellation configuration known to either of their universes. At T. He Chamber's center stood a platform supporting what could only be described as a model of the multiverse, countless spheres of light orbiting around a central axis, each representing a universe. The model was alive with movement, spheres shifting position, occasionally touching, sometimes merging or dividing. It's tracking them all, Lena realized, her time patrol training allowing her to interpret what they were seeing. Every universe, every timeline, every possibility. Nalia approached the model cautiously, her instruments scanning. Two of the spheres are approaching each other rapidly, representing our universes, I believe. The convergence is visualized here in real time. As they watched, the two spheres she indicated continued their inexorable movement toward each other, the space between them narrowing with each passing moment. Around the multiverse model, the chamber's walls displayed shifting images, scenes from both universes, past and present moments flowing into each other. Look, Bulma pointed to one such image, a laboratory where familiar figures worked frantically around equipment Tennyson recognized from his own universe, while others used technology clearly from this one. That's happening now, somewhere on Earth. The convergence is already affecting the physical world. Before anyone could respond, a voice spoke, not aloud, but directly into their minds, Bipas. Sing language itself to implant pure meaning into their consciousness. Visitors from divided reality, the Nexus welcomes you. The voice carried no gender, no age, no identity beyond absolute certainty in its right to exist. It resonated within them at a fundamental level that made Tennyson's teeth ache and the Omnitrix pulse in response. Who are you? He asked aloud, instinctively taking a step forward as spokesperson. I am the Guardian. The Watcher. The Record Keeper. I am what remains when the celestial sapiens ascended beyond the conceptual plane. We seek your help, Bulma stated, her Natu. Raw authority asserting itself even in this extraordinary situation. Our universes are converging, threatening both with destruction. We believe this facility contains the means to prevent it. A ripple passed through the chamber. The images on the walls shifting more rapidly, focusing now on the convergence points where reality had already begun to blur. The convergence is not accidental. It is guided, purposeful. The one you name Chronos seeks the power of creation through destruction. By forcing our universes to merge, he's trying to harness the energy released in the process, Tennyson concluded. But why? What could possibly be worth destroying two entire realities? Instead of answering directly, the presence caused a new image to appear on the chamber walls, a figure Tennyson recognized immediately. Chronos, as he had appeared in their final battle, but now surrounded by technology that combined elements from both universes. The temporal manipulator stood before a device that pulsed with the same energy signature as the dimensional rifts, his expression one of fanatical certainty. He believes himself worthy to reshape creation, to become as the celestial sapiens were, arbiters of reality itself. The energy released by universal convergence would grant him the power to create a reality of his design. Can we stop him? Kazumi asked directly. Is there a way to force the universes apart again? The presence seemed to consider this question longer than the others. The multiverse model rotated slowly, highlighting the two spheres representing their universes, now alarmingly close to contact. The synchronizer exists for this purpose. But its use requires sacrifice. Balance must be maintained. What kind of sacrifice? Lena questioned, her temporal training making her particularly sensitive to the implications. Before the presence could answer, the outpost trembled. The images on the walls flickered, briefly showing multiple vessels surrounding the structure, the SAM-E ships that had pursued them from the station, now accompanied by larger craft of similar design. The servants of chaos have followed your path. They seek to prevent your interference. The barrier between realities grows too thin. I cannot maintain separation much longer. The chamber shifted around them, walls reconfiguring to reveal a new area, a circular room containing a device that resembled the Omnitrix in its core design, but vastly larger and more complex. A pedestal at its center held what appeared to be an empty cradle sized perfectly for a human wrist. The synchronizer requires the catalyst to function. The device you carry must be united with its progenitor, the Omnitrix. Tennyson looked down at his wrist. It came from here. All things originate from the same source. The Devi, CE known as Omnitrix, was inspired by the synchronizer's design, transmitted across dimensional boundaries through dreams to its creator. It returns now to fulfill its true purpose. Another tremor shook the outpost, stronger this time. Sections of the ceiling destabilized, portions phasing in and out of reality. Time grows short. The choice must be made. To use the synchronizer requires the sacrifice of its bearer. The power to separate universes consumes the catalyst that binds them. The implication hung in the air, heavy with finality. Using the device would save both universes, but would cost Tennyson his life. There has to be another way, Kazumi insisted, her voice uncharacteristically emotional. The temporal dilution could be redirected, Lena suggested, mind racing through alternatives. If we could establish a quantum buffer. No, Tennyson interrupted quietly. It makes sense. The Omnitrix is what's accelerating the convergence. Its removal from the equation would allow the universes to naturally separate again. He looked around at his companions, people he'd known for mere days but who had fought alongside him as if they'd been teammates for years. If there's no other way, there is always another way, Meridia stated with unexpected firmness. All eyes turned to her as she stepped forward. The sacrifice requires a catalyst capable of interfacing with both universes simultaneously. The bearer need not be organic. Understanding dawned on Nalia's face. You're suggesting, my systems are designed for adaptive integration, Meridia continued. I can interface with the synchronizer and channel its energy while the Omnitrix provides the dimensional coordinates. It would destroy you, Bulma warned, quickly grasping the proposal. Yes, Meridia acknowledged simply. But it would preserve both universes, and him. Her violet eyes met Tennyson's with an expression he couldn't interpret, something beyond her programming, something genuinely sentient. Before anyone could respond, the outpost shuddered violently. Reality itself seemed to fracture around them as the barrier between universes thinned to breaking point. Decide now. The convergence reaches critical threshold. A section of wall dissolved entirely, revealing the void between universes, and through it, the approaching vessels, weapons charged and ready to fire. The first blast struck the outpost's outer shell, sending shockwaves through its structure. We're out of time, Bulma announced, taking charge. Tennyson, the Omnitrix. Meridia, if you're certain. The android nodded once, decisively. Everything happened with frantic urgency after that. Nalia and Bulma worked to interface the Omnitrix's systems with the synchronizer, guided by the presence's instructions implanted directly into their minds. Lena used her temporal devices to create a buffer zone around the chamber, temporarily slowing the convergence in their immediate vicinity. Kazumi took up position at the breach, ready to defend against boarders if the attacking vessels managed to penetrate the outpost's defenses. Tennyson stood before Meridia, the Omnitrix removed from his wrist for the first time in years, a strand. GE vulnerability accompanying its absence. The device pulsed between them, its energy signature harmonizing with the synchronizer's larger matrix. Why? He asked quietly. You were sent to capture the Omnitrix. This wasn't your mission. Meridia's synthetic features arranged themselves into what might have been a smile, unpracticed but genuine. My primary objective was to secure the Omnitrix. My analysis indicates this action accomplishes that goal, though not as originally intended. Her expression became more serious. But that is not why I am doing this. Then why? Because I have observed, I have learned, I have, she paused, searching for the correct term, evolved beyond my programming. You fight for others without hesitation. You adapt to impossible circumstances. You inspire those around you to exceed their limitations. Her voice softened. Even me. Before Tennyson could respond, another violent tremor shook the chamber. The attacking forces had breached the outpost's outer defenses. "It's ready," Bulma called out. "We need to do this now." Meridia took the Omnitrix from Tennyson's hands, their fingers briefly touching in the transfer. For just a moment, he felt warmth in her synthetic skin, a sensation that should have been impossible for an android. "When the universes separate, you will return to your reality," she told him. "But know that in this one, you made a difference." With those words, she stepped onto the synchronizer's platform. The device activated immediately, energy flowing through circuits that extended across the floor, walls, and ceiling. Connecting to the multiverse model in the adjacent chamber, the Omnitrix merged with the synchronizer's systems, its hourglass symbol expanding to encompass the entire platform. Meridia's body began to glow as energy coursed through her systems. Her synthetic skin became translucent, revealing the complex mechanisms beneath, now transforming, adapting to channel power no machine was designed to contain. The synchronization begins. "You must depart now or be separated with the realities. Get to the ship," Bulma ordered, already moving toward the corridor that would lead them back to the Cosmic Drifter. Tennyson hesitated, unwilling to leave Meridia alone in her final moments. "Go," she told him, her voice distorting as her systems reconfigured. "Live well, Tennyson-san. Experience both lives for those who cannot." Kazumi appeared beside him, taking his arm with gentle but irresistible strength. "We need to go. Her sacrifice means nothing if we don't survive to make use of it." Reluctantly, Tennyson allowed himself to be led away, looking back one last time to see Meridia at the center of a growing sphere of energy that represented the forced separation of two universes. The android's expression was peaceful, almost transcendent, a final evolution beyond her programming into something approaching the divine. They raced through corridors that were literally coming apart at the seams of reality. Dimensions folding and unfolding around them as the outpost began the process of returning each particle of matter to its original universe. The Cosmic Drifter waited at the dock, systems already engaged for emergency departure. As they reached the airlock, the attacking forces breached the inner sanctum. Hybrid creatures poured through reality fractures, their forms even more unstable than those they'd encountered before. At their head strode a figure Tennyson recognized, Kronos himself, though changed from their last encounter, his body partially merged with technology from both universes. "The Omnitrix," he raged upon seeing Tennyson's bare wrist. "What have you done?" "Stopped you," Tennyson replied simply, backing into the airlock as Kazumi covered their retreat. Kronos' face contorted with fury. "You've doomed yourself, boy. When the universes separate, you'll be trapped in the void between." "No," Lena contradicted, her time patrol technology scanning the energy patterns around them. "The synchronizer is coded to his genetic signature through years of Omnitrix use. He'll be returned to his home universe automatically." This revelation seemed to enrage Kronos further. With a howl of frustration, he lunged forward, only to be rebuffed by a blast of concentrated ki energy from Kazumi that sent him staggering back. "Go," she shouted to the others as the airlock began to close. "I'll hold them off." "Not alone," Tennyson insisted, refusing to abandon another teammate. Before he could act, however, the separation effect reached their location. Reality itself began to waver. Objects and people from different universes becoming increasingly transparent to each other as the fundamental frequencies of their matter diverged. Kronos' hybrid forces dissipated first, their unstable cross-universal composition making them particularly vulnerable to the separation effect. Kronos himself fought against it, using his technology to anchor himself. But even he was fighting a losing battle against cosmic forces. "This isn't over, Tennyson," he snarled as his form began to fade. "There are infinite universes, infinite opportunities to try again. And I'll be waiting in every one of them," Tennyson promised. The airlock sealed as the final phase of separation began. Through the viewport, they watched as the outpost itself began to divide, portions returning to each universe while the structure as a whole faded from existence, its purpose fulfilled, its presence no longer needed in either reality. Inside the Cosmic Drifter, the effects of separation manifested in alarming ways. Systems fluctuated as components from different universes responded differently to the process. More distressingly, Tennyson himself began to fade from their perception, his matter resonating with its home universe's frequency. "It's working," Nalia confirmed, monitoring the process with her instruments. The universes are separating along their natural boundaries. We're not going to remember any of this, are we? Bulma asked Lena, her scientific intuition leading her to the logical conclusion. The Time Patrol officer shook her head. Reality will re-establish its continuity. Memory structures will adapt to eliminate contradictions. To us, this will have been merely a strange dream, if remembered at all. Kazumi stepped forward, approaching Tennyson despite the increasing difficulty in perceiving him clearly. So this is goodbye, then. Her typically stoic expression softened. It's a shame. We made a good team. The best, Tennyson agreed. Alred. Why feeling the pull of his home universe, a sensation like falling upward into an endless sky. I won't forget. Not completely. Some things transcend universal boundaries. Like stubborn heroes who refuse to stay in their own dimensions. She suggested with a rare smile. Exactly like that. Lena checked her temporal instruments. The separation completes in 30 seconds. Prepare for potential consciousness disruption as reality reestablishes. Nalia approached, offering Tennyson what appeared to be a small data crystal. I've encoded everything we learned about the convergence. The data structure should survive the transition between universes. It might help if Kronos attempts this again. Thank you, he said, accepting the crystal even as his fingers began to pass through solid matter. For everything. As the final seconds counted down, Tennyson looked at these people who had become friends and allies in such a short time. Bulma with her brilliant mind and indomitable spirit, Lena and her unwavering dedication to cosmic order, Nalia, bridging worlds through science and understanding, and Kazumi, the warrior who had fought beside him as if they'd been partners for years. His same thought before the universes separated completely was of Meridia, the android who had evolved beyond her programming to make the ultimate sacrifice. In that moment, he silently promised that her choice would not be wasted. Reality stretched, pulled, and finally tore along its natural seams. The last thing Tennyson saw was the cosmic drifter fading from his perception, its occupants raising hands in final farewell as the void between universes claimed him. Then darkness, silence, the sensation of falling through infinite space. And finally, light. Tennyson gasped awake, finding himself on familiar ground of his home universe, specifically, the exact location where his battle with Kronos had begun. It was as if no time had passed, though the experience of days spent in another reality lingered in his mind with perfect clarity. On his wrist, the Omnitrix had returned, but changed. Its appearance now incorporated elements of the synchronizer, its capabilities forever altered by the experience of bridging universes. When he activated it, the holographic display showed not only his original alien forms but ghostly outlines of transformations from the other universe, spectral possibilities rather than actual options. Echoes of what had been. And in his pocket, Nalia's data crystal remained solid, proof that some things could indeed transcend universal boundaries. Rising to his feet, Tennyson looked toward the sky, where the faintest shimmer might have been the last visual evidence of the separated universe continuing on its own path through the cosmos. Somewhere in that reality, Kazumi, Nalia, Bulma, and Lena were continuing their lives, perhaps with vague memories of an adventure that seemed more dream than reality. And Meridia, her sacrifice had saved 2 universes. Whether her consciousness had somehow survived within the synchronizer or truly been extinguished, her evolution from programmed machine to self-determining being represented something profound about the nature of life itself. Farewell, he whispered to the sky, to friends he would never see again but would always remember. Then, with renewed purpose, he activated the Omnitrix to begin the journey home. In another universe, separated by laws of physics and quantum frequencies but connected through memory and shared experience, Kazumi stood at the viewport of the cosmic drifter as they returned to Earth. For reasons she couldn't quite articulate, she felt the absence of someone important, a teammate, a friend, perhaps something more. Farewell, she whispered to the stars, though she couldn't have explained who she was addressing or why it felt so necessary. Then, with characteristic determination, she turned away from the viewport and focused on the journey ahead. 2 universes, once nearly merged into catastrophe, now proceeded on separate paths, each enriched by an encounter that rewrote the very laws of reality, and by connections that transcended them. Chapter 3. Temporal Disruptions. 3 days after returning from the edge of the universe, Tennyson's son stood atop Capsule Corporation's main headquarters, watching the sunrise paint West City in hues of gold and amber. The Galactic Omnitrix pulsed softly on his wrist, its hourglass symbol now stable with only occasional flickers of purple energy, a reminder of their journey to the celestial Sapien outpost and Meridia's sacrifice. Despite her noble end, the convergence hadn't stopped completely. The universes had merely been granted a reprieve, their merging slowed rather than halted. According to Nalia's latest calculations, they now had 3 weeks instead of days before irreversible reality collapse would begin. Kronos remained out there somewhere, his plans delayed but not defeated. The memory of his final words echoed in Tennyson's mind. "This isn't over. You're up early." Kazumi's voice interrupted his thoughts. She emerged from the rooftop access door dressed in her training GI, hair pulled back in its usual practical ponytail. Despite the pre-dawn hour, she looked completely alert, a testament to her disciplined lifestyle. "Couldn't sleep," Tennyson admitted. "Too much on my mind." She nodded, understanding without requiring elaboration. That was something he'd come to appreciate about Kazumi. Beneath her tough exterior lay an intuitive grasp of others' emotions, even if she rarely acknowledged it directly. "My mother's team finished analyzing the data we brought back," she said, moving to stand beside him at the railing. "They think they've identified Kronos' base of operations in our universe." This caught Tennyson's full attention. "Where?" "That's the complicated part." Kazumi's expression tightened slightly. "It's in the demon realm. I'm guessing that's not as straightforward as it sounds." A hint of a smile touched her lips. "The demon realm exists in a dimension adjacent to our main universe, not quite a separate universe like yours, more like a pocket dimension with its own rules and inhabitants. Access is tightly restricted. The demons who live there are not generally friendly to outsiders. But Kronos found a way in," Tennyson concluded. "And set up operations there." "Yes. It makes strategic sense. The dimensional barriers are already thinner there, making it easier to manipulate the convergence." The rooftop door opened again, revealing Nalia. The Namekian human hybrid carried her ever-present tablet and appeared even more disheveled than usual, suggesting she'd worked through the night. "Oh good, you're both here," she said by way of greeting. "We have a situation developing in the laboratory. Dr. Brief requested your presence immediately." "What kind of situation?" Kazumi asked, already moving toward the door. "The trans-dimensional kind," Nalia replied cryptically, pushing her glasses up her nose. "And it's asking for Tennyson by name." Bulma Brief's private laboratory occupied an entire subterranean level of Capsule Corporation, accessible only through biometrically secured elevators. As they descended, Nalia explained the morning's developments. "It started approximately 97 minutes ago. A localized distortion in spacetime appeared directly in the center of the quantum containment chamber. Unlike previous rifts, this one maintained stable parameters rather than expanding or contracting." "A controlled breach," Tennyson suggested. "Precisely." Nalia nodded approvingly. "Someone, or something, created a deliberate connection between points in the spacetime continuum." When Dr. Brief attempted to analyze it, the rift responded. The elevator doors opened to reveal a scene of controlled chaos. Scientists moved purposefully between monitoring stations, while security personnel maintained a perimeter around a shimmering portal that dominated the center of the laboratory. The portal itself resembled a vertical pool of liquid light, its surface rippling with complex patterns that seemed to follow mathematical rather than physical properties. Bulma stood before a control console, her attention divided between the portal and the data streaming across her screens. She looked up as they approached, relief evident in her expression. "Finally, whatever this thing is, it's getting impatient." "It's sentient?" Tennyson asked, eyeing the portal with newfound wariness. "In a manner of speaking," Bulma confirmed. "It's not responding to standard communication protocols, but it is reacting to stimuli in ways that suggest intelligence rather than random phenomena." As if triggered by their conversation, the portal's surface rippled more vigorously, patterns shifting to form shapes that almost resembled letters before dissolving back into chaos. "It's been doing that since we mentioned your name," Bulma explained. "We think it's trying to communicate." Tennyson approached cautiously, the Omnitrix pulsing in response to the portal's energy. Can you analyze what's on the other side? Limited data only, Nalia replied, consulting her tablet. The signal originates from a temporal spatial coordinate that doesn't align with our current universe. It's similar to the readings we recorded at the Celestial Sapian Outpost, B. With distinct variations in the quantum signature. The portal's surface suddenly stilled, then parted like a curtain, revealing a figure standing on what appeared to be the other side. The image was distorted, like looking through flowing water, but clear enough to discern features, a woman in a uniform Tennyson didn't recognize, with distinctive equipment strapped to her forearms. Time Patrol, Kazumi identified immediately, her posture tensing. The figure's voice emerged from the portal, distorted but intelligible. Tennyson's son. By authority granted under Temporal Ordinance 557 Beta, Yo. You were hereby detained for violations against timeline integrity. Prepare for extraction. Before anyone could react, the portal expanded outward, engulfing Tennyson in its shimmering energy. Kazumi lunged forward, grabbing his arm just as the portal's effect took hold, and found herself pulled along with him. The sensation that followed defied description, neither teleportation nor conventional movement, but a fundamental shift in the relationship between consciousness and reality. For an eternal moment that paradoxically lasted less than a second, they existed everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Then solidity returned with jarring abruptness. Tennyson and Kazumi materialized on a raised platform in the center of a vast circular chamber filled with technology unlike anything they had seen before. Holographic displays lined the walls, showing what appeared to be timelines from multiple universes flowing like rivers of light. Uniformed personnel monitored these displays from tiered workstations, their attention momentarily diverted by the new arrivals. Standing before them was the woman from the portal, close enough now to see her features clearly. She appeared approximately Tennyson's age, with short brown hair cut in a precise style that framed a face more striking than conventionally beautiful. Her uniform, black with red accents and silver trim, bore insignia suggesting high rank. And the devices on her forearms glowed with active power. Her expression, upon seeing two arrivals instead of one, shifted from professional detachment to barely contained irritation. Extraction. Protocols were calibrated for a single subject, she stated, addressing the technicians operating the platform rather than her guests. Reconfigure containment field to accommodate the secondary subject. Where are we? Tennyson demanded, the Omnitrix already active and cycling through transformation options as a precaution. Time Patrol Headquarters, Temporal Monitoring Division, the woman replied crisply. I am Senior Temporal Officer Lena, designation ALPHA 3542. You have been brought here to answer for critical timeline violations resulting from your interdimensional presence. We didn't exactly have a choice in the matter, Kazumi countered, her fighting stance subtly established despite her calm tone. The convergence was initiated by Kronos, not us. Lena's eyes narrowed slightly. The entity designated, Kronos, is indeed responsible for the initial breach. However, her gaze fixed on the Omnitrix, that device's continued operation in our universe accelerates the convergence exponentially. Our analysts project complete reality collapse within 23 days if it remains active. We're well aware of the situation, Tennyson replied, lowering his wrist but keeping the Omnitrix ready. That's why we're working to stop Kronos and reverse the convergence process. Your intervention at the Celestial Sapian Outpost has been noted, Lena acknowledged with visible reluctance. However, unauthorized temporal spatial operations by uncertified individuals remain prohibited regardless of intent. A new voice joined the conversation, older, carrying natural authority. Perhaps we should discuss this in more appropriate surroundings, Officer Lena. All eyes turned to an elderly man who had approached unnoticed. Despite his advanced age, he carried himself with perfect posture. His Time Patrol uniform modified with additional insignia that even Tennyson could recognize as denoting supreme authority. Most notably, where other officers had devices strapped to their forearms. This man wore what appeared to be an ancient mechanical watch on a simple chain, a deliberately archaic choice that somehow made him seem more rather than less advanced. Supreme Timekeeper, Lena acknowledged with immediate deference, bowing slightly. I was following extraction protocols as authorized. Indeed you were, the elder agreed with a gentle smile that softened his stern features. But our guests have experienced quite enough disorientation for one day, I suspect. He turned to Tennyson and Kazumi. I apologize for the abrupt method of bringing you here. Please, follow me to my office where we can speak more comfortably. Without waiting for a response, he turned and walked toward an ornate doorway. Lena's expression suggested she wanted to protest but couldn't override her superior's authority. Instead, she fell into step behind them, her posture radiating professional disapproval. The Supreme Timekeeper led them through corridors that seemed to exist in multiple architectural styles simultaneously, classical columns giving way to ultramodern surfaces without clear transition points, as if the building itself couldn't decide which era it belonged to. The headquarters exists partially outside conventional time, the elder explained, noting their confused observations. It allows us to monitor multiple time streams without becoming anchored to any particular one. A necessary precaution in our line of work. His office, when they reached it, presented a stark contrast to the headquarters' overall aesthetic. It resembled a traditional study from perhaps the early 20th century. Wooden furnishings, leather-bound books, and artifacts that appeared genuinely ancient rather than futuristically recreated. The only concession to advanced technology was a subtle holographic display integrated into what otherwise looked like an antique desk. Please, be seated, the timekeeper invited, gesturing to comfortable chairs arranged in a conversational grouping. Officer Lena, you may join us. The younger officer took a position standing near the door, clearly preferring to maintain what she considered a professional distance. I am Chronos Prime, The elder introduced himself once they were seated. Not to be confused with your adversary, who has appropriated a similar title without earning it. I oversee all temporal operations within this sector of the multiverse. You monitor time across multiple universes? Tennyson asked, impressed despite their circumstances. We monitor, we observe, and when necessary, we intervene, Chronos Prime confirmed. Though the latter is done with extreme caution and only in cases of critical timeline disruption. Like the convergence between our universes, Kazumi concluded. Precisely. He activated the holographic display, which projected a three-dimensional model of two universes gradually merging, similar to what Lena had shown them during their meeting at Outpost Epsilon, but with significantly more detail. The situation is unprecedented in recorded history. Two complete universal constructs approaching critical convergence would normally trigger automatic separation protocols within the cosmic architecture, a failsafe built into reality itself. But something's preventing that from happening, Tennyson guessed. Chronos Prime nodded gravely. The individual you know as Chronos possesses technology derived from fragments of a celestial sapien artifact, powerful enough to override natural cosmic law when applied precisely. He is using this technology to force the universes together against their fundamental nature. For what purpose? Kazumi asked. What could possibly be worth destroying two entire universes? Power beyond mortal comprehension, Lena interjected from her position by the door. The energy released during universal convergence would be incalculable, enough to ascend beyond physical limitations. He seeks godhood, Chronos Prime stated simply. Not merely great power, but fundamental transformation into a being capable of reshaping reality according to his whims. The implications hung heavily in the air. Tennyson had faced megalomaniacs before, beings who sue GHT universal domination or immense destructive capability. But the ambition to transcend reality itself represented a threat beyond any he had encountered. Why aren't you stopping him directly? He asked finally. With all your temporal technology and authority, surely the Time Patrol could intervene. A shadow passed across Chronos Prime's features. We have tried. 3 elite temporal intervention teams have been dispatched to critical points in Chronos' timeline. None returned. He manipulated the holographic display, showing footage of Time Patrol officers engaging in battle with hybrid creatures similar to those Tennyson had encountered, but in greater numbers and with more advanced capabilities. Chronos has created guardians specifically designed to counter our temporal technology. Worse, he has established his base of operations in a dimensional pocket that exists partially outside our jurisdiction. The Demon Realm, Kazumi stated, connecting this information with what they'd already learned. Correct. The Demon Realm falls under different cosmic authority. We can monitor but not directly intervene without creating a potentially catastrophic jurisdictional conflict. So instead you brought us here. Tennyson concluded, understanding dawning. Not to stop us, but because you need our help. Lena's posture stiffened noticeably at this characterization, but Kronos Pr. Ime merely smiled, the expression of someone whose student has just grasped a difficult concept. Indeed, while your presence accelerates the convergence, you also represent our best hope of stopping it. The Omnitrix's unique properties, combined with your experience navigating between universes, make you uniquely qualified for what must be done. He manipulated the holographic display once more, zooming in on a location within the demon realm, a fortress-like structure built into the side of a mountain, surrounded by energy barriers that pulsed with ominous power. Kronos has established his convergence engine here, at the heart of the demon realm where the barriers between dimensions are naturally thinner. To stop the process, the engine must be deactivated and its control crystal removed. A straightforward infiltration mission, then? Kazumi asked, studying the fortress layout with a tactical eye. Nothing about the demon realm is straightforward, Lena replied, finally moving from her position by the door to join the conversation properly. The environment itself is hostile to beings from our dimension. Reality functions differently there, our technology operates unpredictably, and even key manifestation follows different rules. Which is why conventional time patrol forces would be at a disadvantage, Kronos Prime added. But someone adapted to shifting between different reality systems, his gaze fixed meaningfully on the Omnitrix, might stand a better chance. You want me to go into the demon realm, infiltrate a heavily fortified base, and disable a device that's merging two universes. Tennyson summarized, all while operating in an environment where reality itself works against me. Precisely. The Elder's calm confirmation made the suicidal nature of the mission even more apparent. I'll need more information about the demon realm, Tennyson replied after a moment's consideration. Environmental conditions, native inhabitants, rules of engagement. And he won't be going alone. Kazumi added with finality, I'm coming too, as am I, Lena stated, her tone suggesting this wasn't open for debate. When Kronos Prime raised an eyebrow, she continued, more formally, as the officer who initiated contact, protocol dictates I maintain operational oversight for any sanctioned intervention. The Elder studied her for a moment, then nodded. Very well. The mission parameters will accommodate a 3-person team. He turned back to the holographic display, expanding the layout of Kronos' fortress. You'll need access protocols for the outer defenses, and a guide once inside the demon realm itself. Fortunately, we have an asset already in place who can provide both. An undercover time patrol agent? Tennyson asked. Not exactly. Something in Kronos Prime's tone suggested complexity beyond simple operational security. A native of the demon realm who has provided intelligence to us in the past. Her motives are her own, but her information has proven reliable. Her name, Kazumi prompted. She goes by Vess. No surname, no formal title. She holds a position within the Demuncan social hierarchy that grants her access to restricted areas, including the perimeter of Kronos' fortress. Can we trust her? Lena asked, her professional skepticism evident. Trust is perhaps too strong a word, Kronos Prime replied diplomatically. She has her own agenda, as all denizens of the demon realm do. But that agenda has aligned with our interests thus far, and she has personal reasons to oppose Kronos' operations. The holographic display shifted to show their insertion point, a relatively isolated area near the realm's boundary, where the dimensional membrane was thin enough to allow controlled passage. You will depart in 3 hours, Kronos Prime informed them. That will allow sufficient time for briefing, equipment preparation, and necessary biological adaptations to withstand the demon realm's environment. Adaptations? Tennyson questioned. The atmosphere there contains elements toxic to human physiology, Lena explained. Temporary genetic modification will be required to ensure respiratory function. The Omnitrix should handle that for me, Tennyson noted, examining the device on his wrist. Perhaps, Kronos Prime acknowledged. But Officer Lena will ensure that all preparations meet time patrol standards regardless. The meeting concluded with practical details, maps, security protocols, recognition signals for their contact. Throughout the briefing, Tennyson noted the tension in Lena's demeanor whenever the demon realm was discussed. Despite her professional detachment, Something about this mission clearly disturbed her on a personal level. As they prepared to leave the office, Kronos Prime held Tennyson back for a moment, allowing the others to move ahead. "There is something else you should know," the elder said quietly once they were alone. "The Omnitrix in its current state, what you see, all the Galactic Omnitrix, is evolving beyond its original parameters. The merging of different universal constants has accelerated its development in ways even its creator never anticipated." "I've noticed some changes," Tennyson admitted. "New transformation options, increased duration limits. More than that," Kronos Prime insisted. "The device is developing a form of sentience, a quantum consciousness emerging from the interaction of cross-universal DNA samples. It's becoming something entirely new." Tennyson looked down at the Omnitrix with renewed consideration. "Is that dangerous?" "All evolution carries risk," the elder replied cryptically. "But it may also be the key to your success. The demon realm responds to intention and consciousness in ways our universe does not. A device with emergent awareness might adapt where purely mechanical technology would fail." With those unsettling words lingering in his mind, Tennyson rejoined the others for mission preparations, the weight of 2 universes, survival settling more heavily on his shoulders with each passing moment. The preparatory procedures proved more intensive than Tennyson had anticipated. While his teammates underwent medical treatments to temporarily alter their biology for demon realm survival, he spent the hours working with Time Patrol technicians to analyze the Omnitrix's evolving capabilities. The transformation matrix has expanded to incorporate 73 distinct genetic samples from this universe, the lead technician reported, examining holographic readouts generated by their scanning equipment. "Most intriguing is the hybridization effect. The device appears to be creating new combinations by merging DNA patterns from both universal constants. That explains why my transformations don't exactly match either universe's species," Tennyson noted, watching as the scan cataloged his most recent forms. "Precisely. You're not becoming a pure Saiyan or Namekian or Arcosian, you're becoming evolutionary optimizations that combine traits from both universes, variations of these species." The technician adjusted her instruments, focusing on the Omnitrix's core programming. "There's something the device's operating system has developed new subroutines that don't match the original architecture. They appear to be self-generating rather than pre-programmed. Adaptive algorithms," Tennyson suggested, familiar with the concept from the original Omnitrix's evolutionary function. "More complex than that," the technician's expression reflected both scientific fascination and concern. "SA are closer to neural pathways than conventional code structures, almost as if the device is developing its own thought processes." Before they could explore this further, an alert signaled that mission preparation time had elapsed. Tennyson was escorted to the departure chamber, where he found Kazumi and Lena waiting, both now dressed in specialized environmental suits designed for demon realm conditions. Kazumi's suit resembled her fighting GI in basic design but incorporated protective materials and technology within the fabric itself, allowing full combat mobility while providing environmental shielding. Lena wore a more standardized Time Patrol field uniform, augmented with additional tactical equipment and her signature temporal devices. "Final equipment check," Lena announced, her manner all business. "Atmospheric converters active and functioning. Communications linked to headquarters temporal relay. Weapons systems charged." She turned to Tennyson. "Omnitrix status. Fully functional," he confirmed, though he chose not to mention the device's potential emerging sentience. Some revelations were better kept in reserve until he understood their implications more clearly. The departure chamber itself resembled the extraction platform where they had arrived, but modified for precision targeting. Technicians made final adjustments to coordinates as Kronos Prime entered to oversee their departure personally. "The dimensional aperture will place you approximately 2 kilometers from the arranged meeting point with our contact," he informed them. "Local conditions include elevated sulfur content in the atmosphere and approximately 1.4 times standard gravity. Once the mission is complete, your temporal transponders will allow us to extract you from any location within the realm." His gaze lingered on each of them in turn, settling lastly on Lena. "Remember your training, officer. The demon realm influences emotions and judgment in subtle ways. Maintain your mental disciplines at all times." Understood. Supreme Timekeeper, she replied with perfect professional composure, though Tennyson detected a flicker of something deeper beneath her response, perhaps Perso. Null history related to the realm that explained her earlier tension. One final warning, Chronos Prime added as they took positions on the platform. Time flows differently in the demon realm, sometimes faster, sometimes slower than our universe. What feels like hours there might be days here, or vice versa. Your temporal transponders will help compensate, but be prepared for disorientation. With those ominous words, he signaled the technicians to begin the transfer process. The chamber filled with energy that coalesced around the platform, creating a controlled version of the portal that had earlier extracted Tennyson from Capsule Corp. Unlike that abrupt transition, this one proceeded methodically, the environment around them gradually shifting like a dissolution between scenes in a film. The clean, orderly architecture of Time Patrol headquarters faded, replaced by swirling mists in unnatural colors that made Tennyson's eyes water despite the Omnitrix's automatic physiological adjustments. When the transition completed, they stood on rocky terrain beneath a sky that defied conventional description, not blue or black or any natural color, but a churning maelstrom of purples and sea crimson that occasionally parted to reveal what might have been stars but could equally have been watchful eyes. The air felt heavy, almost liquid in its density, carrying scents that human olfactory systems had no reference points to process. In the distance, rock formations rose that resembled architectural structures, though whether they were natural or artificial was impossible to determine from this vantage point. "Welcome to the demon realm," Lena stated flatly, checking her equipment. "Try not to touch anything without gloves, don't eat or drink anything not from our supplies, and above all, don't make bargains with anything that offers you one." "Hospitable place," Kazumi commented dryly, acclimating to the increased gravity with the natural adaptability of her partial Saiyan physiology. Tennyson consulted the mapping device they'd been provided, orienting themselves toward their designated meeting point. 2 kilometers that way, through that valley. The landscape they traversed seemed designed to unsettle. Vegetation grew in geometrically perfect patterns that no evolutionary process could explain naturally. What appeared to be ordinary stones would occasionally shift position when not directly observed. The very ground beneath their feet sometimes responded to their weight differently than physics should allow, certain steps sinking as expected, others meeting resistance as if the soil itself decided whether to support them. "The realm responds to consciousness," Lena explained, noting Tennyson's confusion at these phenomena. "Reality here is negotiable, in ways our universe isn't. The environment itself possesses a form of awareness, though not exactly sentience as we understand it." Their journey through this unsettling landscape took longer than the distance would suggest, the path occasionally seeming to loop back on itself despite their continued forward progress. Eventually, however, they reached the designated coordinates, a clearing surrounded by crystalline formations that hummed with subtle energy. "Our contact should be here," Lena stated, checking her temporal device with growing irritation. "Unless the time differential is more severe than anticipated. Or perhaps I simply wanted to observe before revealing myself," a new voice suggested from seemingly nowhere. The crystalline formations around them shifted, light refracting through them to coalesce into a humanoid figure. As the light solidified, it revealed a woman whose appearance instantly commanded attention, tall and gracefully built, with skin a deep shade of burgundy and hair like liquid silver that moved with subtle animation even when she remained still. Her eyes, most strikingly, contained no discernible pupils or irises, just pools of golden light that seemed to see beyond physical surfaces. Her clothing matched her exotic appearance, a flowing ensemble that incorporated both cloth and what appeared to be living materials, adorned with symbols that shifted position when viewed directly. At her throat rested a pendant that pulsed with energy matching the crystals surrounding the clearing. "Vess, I presume," Tennyson stated, keeping his tone neutral despite the dramatic entrance. A smile curved lips that were just slightly too perfect to be human. "Tennyson's son, wielder of the device that bridges universes." Her gaze shifted. "Kazumi Brief, daughter of genius and warrior blood." Finally, her golden eyes settled on their third companion. "And Lena of the Time Patrol, returning to the realm after swearing never to set foot here again. What an interesting assembly you make." Lena's expression tightened at this personal reference, but she maintained her professional demeanor. We were told you would provide access protocols for Kronos' fortress. So direct, Vess sighed dramatically, moving with liquid grace to circle them. No appreciation for proper introductions or the etiquette of the realm. She stopped before Tennyson, studying him with undisguised interest. Tell me, Universe Crosser, do you understand what you carry on your wrist? The true nature of the power you so casually wield? I understand enough to know we're running out of time, Tennyson replied steadily. 2 universes are at risk of collapse. Time, Vess echoed with amusement. Such a linear concept you bring with you. Here in the realm, it flows like water, pooling, circling. Occasionally running backward, she gestured expansively at their surroundings. Why rush when reality itself might grant you centuries in the span of what your world experiences as moments? Because we don't trust reality here to be so generous, Kazumi interjected, her patience visibly wearing thin. Will you help us as arranged, or not? Vess turned her golden gaze to the half-Saiyan woman, expression shifting to one of genuine curiosity. Such fire in you, the warrior's blood runs strong. Very well. She approached a crystalline formation and passed her hand through its surface, retrieving what appeared to be a data crystal that hadn't been visible within it a moment before. The outer defenses of Kronos' fortress operate on standard arcane matrices, easily bypassed with these countermeasures. She offered the crystal to Tennyson. The inner sanctum where the convergence engine resides, however, requires more than mere access codes. It requires presence that the security system recognizes as authorized. And you can provide that? Lena asked skeptically. Better. Vess's smile turned enigmatic. I can get you close enough to acquire it yourselves, from those who already possess it. She gestured, and the crystalline formation nearest them transformed into a viewing portal, showing Kronos' fortress from an aerial perspective. The image zoomed in on Figu. Res patrolling the outer perimeter. Hybrid creatures similar to those they had encountered before, but more stable in their composition. Kronos has perfected his creation of hybrid beings, Vess explained. These guardians contain genetic material from both universes, stabilized through methods that, frankly, you're better off not knowing the details of. Each carries a biomarker that the fortress security recognizes as authorized. So we need to, what? Capture one. Copy its biomarker, Kazumi asked. The Omnitrix could sample their DNA, Tennyson suggested, studying the creatures through the viewing portal. If I transform into one of them, I might be able to fool the security systems. Vess's expression brightened with genuine delight. Precisely. The device that catalogs life forms cross universes. What better tool for infiltration? Though I should warn you, her tone grew more serious. These particular hybrids were specifically designed with consciousness structures resistant to outside control. Transformation might be challenging to maintain. You mean I could lose control of the transformation, Tennyson translated. The risk increases the longer you maintain the form, Vess confirmed. But it's your only viable option for reaching the inner sanctum undetected. Lena studied the fortress layout through the viewing portal with professional assessment. The approach presents significant challenges. The outer perimeter is heavily patrolled, and the energy barrier would detect conventional penetration methods. Fortunately, conventional methods are not required in the realm. Vess replied with a dismissive wave. I can create a temporary phase shift that will allow us to approach undetected to within 50 meters of the outer wall. From there, your Omnitrix wielder can acquire the necessary sample and proceed with the infiltration. Us? Kazumi questioned, catching the pronoun. You're coming along. Of course. Vess's smile revealed teeth just slightly too sharp to be human. Did you think I would simply provide information and send you on your way? I have personal interest in seeing Kronos' operations disrupted. Besides, she gestured at their environmental suits. You're hardly equipped to navigate the realm's deeper territories without native guidance. The logic was undeniable, though Tennyson sensed both Kazumi and Lena had reservations about their new companion. Nevertheless, the mission parameters required adaptation, and Vess's assistance represented their best chance of success. With plans established, they moved out, following the demon woman through landscapes that became increasingly surreal as they approached the fortress. The terrain shifted from rocky badlands to forests of crystalline vegetation that chimed with disc Ordant melodies when touched by passing air currents. Occasionally, creatures that defied classification would observe their passage from a distance, some resembling animals with too many limbs or eyes. Others more like sentient geometric shapes that folded through dimensions beyond normal perception. Throughout their journey, Vess maintained a running commentary that mixed useful information with deliberate enigmas, clearly enjoying the discomfort her cryptic statements caused Lena in particular. "The Time Patrol believes the realm exists adjacent to your universe," she remarked at one point, "but the truth is more complex. We exist in the spaces between universes, the conceptual framework upon which reality itself is constructed. Your people once called these spaces the void, or the abyss. But such limited terminology hardly captures our nature." "And what is your nature, exactly?" Tennyson asked, genuinely curious despite the mission's urgency. Vess's golden eyes gleamed with appreciation for the question. "We are possibility given form. Consciousness without the limitations of physical evolution. Some might call us demons, for simplicity's sake, but that term carries unfortunate connotations in your mythology." Her expression grew thoughtful. "Perhaps conceptual entities would be more accurate, though considerably less dramatic." "You mentioned personal reasons for opposing Kronos," Kazumi noted, keeping the conversation focused on relevant matters. "Care to elaborate?" For the first time, Vess's playful demeanor faltered slightly. "Kronos violates fundamental principles in his pursuit of ascension. The convergence he forces between universes creates disharmony in the conceptual framework. The realm itself suffers from his manipulations. You're protecting your home," Tennyson translated, finding this motivation surprisingly relatable. "In a sense," Vess acknowledged. "Though, home is another concept that translates imperfectly between our realities." As they neared the fortress, the landscape changed dramatically. The natural surrealism of the realm gave way to deliberate corruption. Vegetation withered into grotesque formations, the ground itself seeming diseased, with pulsing veins of unnatural energy visible beneath the surface. "Kronos' operations affect the local environment," Lena observed, checking readings on her temporal device. Quote, "The convergence engine creates ripple effects throughout the dimensional membrane. More than you realize," Vess confirmed grimly. "It's not merely affecting the environment but altering the fundamental nature of the realm itself. The longer it operates, the more permanent the damage becomes." They crested a ridge that provided their first direct view of the fortress, a massive structure that ARED partially constructed and partially grown from the mountain itself. Its architecture combined elements from both universes, the technological aesthetic of advanced scientific facilities merged with the organic, almost biological design principles common to certain alien species Tennyson recognized from his home reality. Energy barriers surrounded the complex in overlapping layers, while patrol routes were visible as hybrid guardians moved with military precision along the perimeter. Watch towers equipped with what appeared to be energy weapons tracked movement across the surrounding terrain, their targeting systems sweeping regular patterns. "Impressive security," Kazumi commented, surveying the fortress with a tactical eye. "Conventional assault would be suicide. Hence our more subtle approach," Vess replied. She knelt, placing her palm against the ground, and closed her golden eyes in concentration. The earth beneath them shifted subtly, reality seeming to thin as she manipulated the realm's malleable nature. "I can create a phase shift that will render us partially incorporeal for approximately 7 minutes. Sufficient time to reach the blind spot I've identified near the eastern wall." "And after we're inside?" Lena questioned. "After that, it becomes considerably more complicated," Vess admitted. "The interior defenses include reality anchors specifically designed to counter realm-based abilities like mine. Once inside, we'll need to rely on your technology and the Omnitrix." Tennyson studied the patrol patterns, identifying a target for DNA acquisition. "That one," he indicated a hybrid guardian whose patrol route would bring it momentarily isolated from others. "Appears to be a hybrid of a Kinesolaran and something native to this universe, built for speed rather than strength. If I can sample its DNA, the transformation should give me the mobility needed for the rest of the infiltration." With plans established, they waited for Vess's signal. The demon woman's hands traced complex patterns in the air, gathering energy that coalesced around them like a second skin. "When I complete the final sequence, We'll have exactly 7 minutes before corporeality reasserts, she instructed. Move quickly, stay close to me, and under no circumstances interact with any physical object until we reach our destination. Partial phasing is precarious, too much contact with solid matter could snap us back prematurely. With a final gesture that seemed to fold space itself, Vess completed the phase shift. The sensation was disorienting. Tennyson's body became lightweight, almost vapor-like, while his vision acquired an overlay of spectral images that represented reality's normally invisible aspects. They moved as one through the phase-shifted state, passing Hero solid objects as if they were mist. The fortress's outer defenses registered nothing as they penetrated successive security layers, energy barriers parting around their incorporeal forms without triggering alarms. As they neared the end of their 7-minute window, Vess guided them to a maintenance alcove that her intelligence had identified as a blind spot in the internal security network. Reality snapped back into normal focus as the phase shift ended, the sudden return to corporeality sending a wave of disorientation through all of them. 2 minutes to recover, then we proceed, Lena whispered, checking her temporal device to ensure it had survived the transition. The alcove provided temporary safety, but their target, the isolated patrol guard, would pass nearby within moments. Tennyson readied the Omnitrix, preparing for rapid acquisition and transformation. When the hybrid guardian appeared, moving with the fluid grace of a Kinesolaran but with the predatory alertness of something native to the demon realm, Tennyson acted without hesitation. The Omnitrix extended a scanning beam that momentarily connected with the creature, sampling its genetic structure before it cooled. React to the unexpected energy signature. The guard paused, sensing something amiss, but before it could investigate, Kazumi created a distraction by deliberately triggering a minor alert in a different corridor. The hybrid's programming prioritized the more obvious disturbance, and it sped away to investigate. DNA sample acquired, Tennyson confirmed, the Omnitrix displaying the hybrid's genet. IC structure in its holographic interface. Transformation ready. Remember what I said about these hybrids, Vess cautioned. Their consciousness structures are designed to resist control. The longer you maintain the transformation, the greater the risk of the hybrid's programmed loyalty asserting itself. Then I'll have to work fast, Tennyson replied, activating the transformation sequence. Process felt different immediately, more resistance than usual as the DNA restructured his body. Where transformation typically flowed smoothly, this one fought him at a molecular level, as if the genetic material itself contained an antagonistic consciousness. When the transformation completed, Tennyson found himself in a form simultaneously familiar and alien. The basic structure resembled his Kinesolaran form XLR8, but with significant differences. The skin was a deeper blue with red markings that pulsed with energy, while the tail contained barbed extensions that seemed designed for combat rather than merely balance. Most notably, the visor that normally covered a Kinesolaran's face was partially transparent, revealing eyes that glowed with the same unnatural energy he'd observed in native realm entities. "How do you feel?" Kazumi asked cautiously, noting his momentary disorientation. "Strange," Tennyson replied, his voice carrying the characteristic vibration of a Kinesolaran but with an undertone that wasn't his own. "The hybrid consciousness is present. Not controlling, but aware. Watching. You must move quickly," Lena urged. "According to the fortress schematics, the central control room is 3 levels below our current position. That's where the convergence engine will be housed. We'll create a diversion to draw attention away from your approach," Kazumi added. "Once you've disabled the engine, signal through the Omnitrix, and we'll meet at the extraction point." Tennyson nodded, already feeling the hybrid consciousness testing the boundaries of his control. Subtle impulses to report the intruders, to follow security protocols rather than subvert them. "Be careful," Vess warned, her golden eyes seeing aspects of his condition invisible to the others. Hybrid's loyalty programming is already activating. You have perhaps 15 minutes before it begins actively fighting for control." With no time to waste, they enacted their plan. Kazumi and Lena would create a security incident in the upper levels, drawing response forces away from the central control room. Vess would use her limited abilities inside the reality-anchored fortress to disrupt surveillance systems. Tennyson, disguised as a hybrid guardian, would penetrate to the convergence engine and disable it. Moving with the Kinesolaran hybrid's incredible speed, Tennyson navigated the fortress corridors, passing other guards who registered him as authorized personnel. The hybrid's genetic marker functioned perfectly, security systems acknowledging him with green lights and open due ways that would otherwise have triggered maximum response. As he descended deeper into the facility, the architecture changed subtly. Technological elements gave way to more organic structures, corridors that resembled arteries, doors that opened like diaphragms rather than mechanical panels. The convergence engine's influence was more pronounced here, reality itself becoming malleable in ways innocent of the demon realm's natural properties. Throughout his infiltration, Tennyson fought a growing battle with the hybrid consciousness. It pushed against his control in subtle ways, suggesting alternate routes that would lead to security stations, attempting to access communication systems to report anomalies, trying to divert him from his target. Maintaining focus required increasing mental effort, taxing his concentration as he navigated the complex facility. Finally, he reached the central chamber, a vast spherical room dominated by a device that defied conventional description. The convergence engine resembled a miniature galaxy suspended in midair, with swirling energies of multiple colors orbiting a central crystalline core that pulsed with blinding intensity. Surrounding the device were control stations where figures worked, some human in appearance, others clearly not, all focused on maintaining the delicate balance of forces that drove the universal merger. At the chamber's center, overlooking operations from an elevated platform, stood Kronos himself. The temporal manipulator had changed since their last encounter, his body now partially merged with technology that tended into his flesh like metallic veins, while his eyes glowed with the same energy that powered the convergence engine. Tennyson froze, instinctively seeking cover before being noticed. The hybrid consciousness seized this moment of distraction, pushing harder against his control, no longer subtle but actively fighting to reassert itself. Pain lanced through his transformed body as two wills struggled for dominance. A security alert suddenly blared throughout the facility, not from his position, but from the diversion Kazumi and Lena had initiated several levels above. The distraction worked as intended, drawing Kronos' attention and many of the operators away from the convergence engine. Security breach in Section 7, an automated system announced. All available Guardians respond. Protocol Omega in effect. The hybrid consciousness within Tennyson received these orders with renewed vigor, attempting to force his body to respond to the command. Fighting through the pain of resistance, he maintained control long enough to approach the now less guarded convergence engine. The central control crystal, the key component that coordinated the merger between universes, was housed in a containment field at the engine's core. According to their briefing, removing this crystal would destabilize the entire process, forcing the universes to begin natural separation. As Tennyson approached the control stations, the remaining technicians acknowledged him with cursory glances, assuming he was a guardian assigned to internal security during the alert. The hybrid's genetic marker continued to function, granting access to restricted areas that would otherwise have triggered additional security measures. Reaching the main control panel, Tennyson accessed the containment field parameters. Using knowledge gleaned from both the Time Patrol briefing and the hybrid's own programmed understanding of the facility, the system recognized his authorization, beginning the sequence that would temporarily deactivate the field for what the computer assumed was routine maintenance. Just as success seemed within reach, the hybrid consciousness made a desperate bid for control, forcing Tennyson's hand away from the critical final command. His body seized as the internal struggle intensified, drawing attention from the nearest technician. Guardian Unit SK-7, status report, the technician demanded. Noting his unusual behavior, finding his voice, Tennyson managed to respond with the appropriate security clearance, though the strain of maintaining the deception was evident. Routine inspection of containment parameters. Possible fluctuation detected. The technician frowned, unconvinced. No fluctuations are indicated in the monitoring system. Return to your patrol route immediately. In that critical moment, with options dwindling and control slipping, Tennyson made a tactical decision. Rather than continuing the pretense, he embraced the speed of his Kinesolaran form and moved with blinding velocity, incapacitating the nearby technicians before they could trigger additional alarms. The abrupt action caused the hybrid consciousness to redouble its efforts for control, sending waves of disorienting pain through his transformed body. Fighting through it, Tennyson completed the command sequence, deactivating the containment field around the control crystal. As the field dissipated, he reached for the crystal, only to be thrown backward by a blast of concentrated energy that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Did you truly believe it would be so simple? Kronos' voice echoed through the chamber as he materialized near the convergence engine, having teleported from the upper levels at the first sign of the containment field's deactivation. That I would leave my life's work vulnerable to such pedestrian sabotage. The temporal manipulator had changed even from the glimpse Tennyson had caught moments earlier, his transformation accelerating, body now more machine than flesh. Eyes burning with power drawn directly from the convergence process. I knew the Time Patrol would eventually attempt direct intervention, Kronos continued, approaching with the confidence of someone who had anticipated every possible threat. Just as I knew they would recruit you, Tennyson's son, to serve as their instrument. Your presence here completes a cycle of inevitability that I have carefully engineered from the beginning. Fighting against both the hybrid consciousness and the effects of Kronos' energy blast, Tennyson struggled to his feet. You wanted me here. Why? A smile that contained no humanity stretched across Kronos' transformed face. Because you carry the final component I require. He gestured toward the Omnitrix symbol on Tennyson's chest. The device that bridges universes, the perfect catalyst to complete my ascension. Understanding dawned with horrifying clarity. The entire convergence process, the merging of universes, the creation of hybrid beings. Even Tennyson's original transportation to this reality had been orchestrated to bring the Omnitrix to this precise location at this precise moment. The Omnitrix was never meant to stop the convergence. Tennyson realized aloud. You designed the process to require it as the final key. Precisely, Kronos exclaimed with the satisfaction of a teacher whose student finally grasps a difficult concept. The Omnitrix's fundamental nature, its ability to sample, store, and reconstruct genetic material across species, makes it the perfect bridge between universal constants. When integrated with the convergence engine, it will allow me to harness the energy of both collapsing universes, transforming me into a being beyond the limitations of any single reality. Revelation struck with devastating impact. Their entire mission had been anticipated, perhaps even subtly guided, to deliver exactly what Kronos needed to complete his plans. In that moment of clarity, Tennyson felt the Omnitrix pulse against his transformed chest, not the usual signal of a timed-out transformation, but something different. The device was responding to the convergence engine's proximity, resonating with energies that called to its core programming. Kronos noticed the reaction, his expression shifting to triumphant anticipation. It recognizes its purpose. Even now, the Devi seeks to fulfill the function for which it was truly designed, not preservation of species, but transcendence beyond them. Fighting against the hybrid consciousness with renewed determination, Tennyson retreated from Kronos' approach. He needed time to think, to find another solution before the temporal manipulator could claim the Omnitrix. The others will be here any moment, he warned, stalling for time. You won't succeed. Your companions are otherwise occupied, Kronos replied with dismissive confidence. The security alert they triggered has become quite real. My hybrid guardians have them cornered in the upper levels. Even your demon guide finds her abilities more limited than she anticipated within my fortress. As if summoned by his words, the chamber's main entrance burst open. Kazumi flew through, literally flew, her Saiyan heritage manifesting in a corona of ki energy that surrounded her body. Behind her came Lena, temporal devices activated and creating localized distortions that confused the hybrid guardians pursuing them. Get away from him, Kazumi shouted, gathering ki energy into a concentrated blast that she directed at Kronos. The temporal manipulator did dodge. He simply shifted slightly in relation to time itself, the energy blast passing through the space he had occupied milliseconds before. How disappointing, he sighed, gesturing casually. Reality rippled around Kazumi and Lena. Suddenly thick and resistant like air transformed to gel. Their movements slowed to a crawl as Kronos manipulated local temporal flow. I had hoped for more challenging opposition. Taking advantage of Kronos' divided attention, Tennyson forced his hybrid form to its maximum speed, circling the chamber to approach the convergence engine from another angle. If he couldn't remove the control crystal directly, perhaps he could overload the system instead. The hybrid consciousness fought him viciously now, recognizing the threat to its master's plans. Each step became a battle of wills. Each thought contested territory as two minds struggled for control of one body. Through sheer determination, Tennyson reached the secondary control console. With the No.WL edge gleaned from both the Time Patrol briefing and the hybrid's own programmed understanding, he began entering commands to destabilize the engine's containment parameters. Kronos noticed too late, his attention divided between maintaining temporal control over Kazumi and Lena while simultaneously trying to recapture Tennyson. Stop. You don't understand what you're doing. Uncontrolled destabilization will create a cascading failure across both universal constants. Better that than whatever godhood you're planning, Tennyson retorted, completing the command sequence. The convergence engine's rhythmic pulsing faltered, energy patterns becoming erratic as containment fields fluctuated. Warning signals blared throughout the chamber as automated systems detected the imminent catastrophic failure. Kronos abandoned his hold on Kazumi and Lena, teleporting directly to the engine's main control panel. Fool, you've doomed us all. His hands moved with inhuman speed, attempting to counteract the destabilization sequence. Released from temporal restraint, Kazumi immediately launched herself at Kronos, while Lena moved to assist Tennyson, who was now visibly struggling against the hybrid consciousness. The transformation is breaking down, she observed, temporal devices scanning his condition. The hybrid is gaining control. I can hold it a little longer, Tennyson managed through clenched teeth. Though the pain of resistance had become nearly unbearable. We need to complete the destabilization. A new voice joined the chaos, Vess, somehow materializing within the chamber despite the reality anchors that should have prevented such manifestation. The fortress's systems are breaking down, she reported, golden eyes assessing the situation with preternatural clarity. The anchors weakened when the convergence engine began to destabilize. Her gaze fixed on Tennyson, seeing beyond his physical form to the struggle within. You cannot maintain control much longer. The hybrid consciousness will consume you if you don't revert. If I revert, we lose our advantage, Tennyson argued. The security systems will recognize me as an intruder. Security systems are the least of our concerns now, Lena interjected, indicating the convergence engine. The destabilization had progressed beyond Kronos' ability to contain, energy patterns now wildly erratic, the central crystal pulsing with blinding intensity. Across the chamber, Kazumi engaged Kronos in direct combat, her Saiyan combat abilities enhanced by intense key manipulation matched against his temporally augmented movements. Neither could gain decisive advantage, but the battle kept the temporal manipulator from fully addressing the engine's imminent collapse. We need to leave, now, Vess urged with uncharacteristic directness. When the engine fails completely, reality itself will fragment within this facility. Even the demon realm's flexible nature cannot withstand such disruption. Lena activated her temporal transponder, attempting to signal Time Patrol headquarters for emergency extraction. Transponder not functioning, she reported with alarm. The engine's destabilization is creating interference across all temporal frequencies. There's another way out, Vess stated, moving toward Tennyson. But it requires his device, and him in his natural form. Understanding the necessity, Tennyson finally released his fight against the hybrid consciousness. The Omnitrix responded immediately, the transformation collapsing as the device detected the critical danger to its wielder. In a flash of green energy, he returned to human form. Gasping as the hybrid's foreign presence vanished from his mind. Kazumi, he shouted across the chamber. We need to go, now. The half-Saiyan warrior disengaged from her battle with Kronos, delivering a final powerful kick that sent him crashing into a control panel before flying across the chamber to rejoin the others. The Omnitrix, Vess instructed urgently, can create a dimensional rift similar to the one that brought you here initially. Its connection to both universes makes it uniquely capable of opening a path between realities. I've never used it that way before, Tennyson objected, examining the device with uncertainty. You don't need to know how, Vess insisted, placing her hand over the Omnitrix. I can guide the process, but only you can initiate it. With no better options and the convergence engine now emitting waves of destructive energy that tore at the fabric of local reality, Tennyson nodded his agreement. Vess's golden eyes locked with his as her hand remained over the Omnitrix. Energy flowed between them, not the usual transformation energy, but something deeper, connecting to the device's core programming. Under her guidance, Tennyson accessed functions he hadn't known existed, activating protocols that seemed to have been dormant within the Omnitrix since its creation. The hourglass symbol projected a beam of concentrated energy that opened a swirling portal before them, similar to the one that had originally transported Tennyson between universes, but more stable, its edges defined with precision rather than chaos. Go, Vess commanded, maintaining the connection that stabilized the portal. I will hold it open long enough for you to escape. What about you? Tennyson asked, reluctant to leave her behind. A smile that mixed sadness with acceptance crossed her exotic features. The realm is my home, universe crosser. I cannot leave it, even if I wished to. Her expression hardened with sudden urgency. Now go. The engine's collapse accelerates. Lena entered the portal first, followed by Kazumi, who paused at the threshold to look back at Tennyson. Don't you dare play hero and stay behind, she warned him. The concern beneath her tough exterior plainly visible. As Tennyson moved to follow, a blast of concentrated temporal energy struck near them. Kronos, his body now more energy than matter, approached with desperate fury. You cannot stop the process. He raged, though his voice had become as distorted as his form. The convergence will continue, with or without the engine to guide it. Perhaps, Vess acknowledged, her free hand tracing symbols in the air that formed barriers against Kronos' approach. But it will proceed at its natural pace, centuries rather than days. Time anew. GH for those who understand the process to develop proper countermeasures. Kronos howled with frustrated rage, launching himself toward the portal in a last desperate attempt to follow them through. Vess responded with a gesture that bent reality around him, temporarily trapping him in a loop of his own temporal energy. Go, she urged Tennyson one final time. The connection cannot be maintained much longer. With a last grateful look at the mysterious demon woman, Tennyson entered the portal. The last thing he saw before the dimensional gateway closed behind him was Vess turning to face THE fully destabilizing convergence engine, her form shifting into something far less human and far more primal, a being of pure conceptual energy ready to contain the coming cataclysm as best she could. The journey through dimensions felt different this time, controlled rather than chaotic, directed rather than random. When Tennyson emerged on the other side, he found himself back in Bulma's laboratory at Capsule Corporation. Kazumi and Lena already there and surrounded by startled scientists. Alarms blared throughout the facility as sensors detected the unauthorized dimensional breach. Security personnel had weapons trained on the new arrivals until Bulma herself pushed through the crowd, ordering them to stand down. What happened? She demanded, noting their battle-worn appearance and the residual energy from the demon realm that clung to them like a visible aura. The monitoring systems detected a massive surge in convergence energy, then a sudden drop. We destroyed Kronos' convergence engine, Kazumi reported succinctly, but not before learning the truth about his plans. Lena, looking somewhat disoriented by the transition between dimensions, activated her temporal device. Unlike in the demon realm, it functioned perfectly here, projecting a holographic communication interface. I must report to Time Patrol headquarters immediately. The situation has evolved beyond our initial assessment. As she moved to a quieter corner of the laboratory to make her report, Tennyson explained to Bulma what they had discovered, Kronos' true intentions for the Omnitrix, the engine's destruction, and the uncertain fate of both Kronos himself and Vess. So the convergence has been slowed but not stopped, Bulma concluded, her brilliant mind already calculating implications. Quote, and Kronos might have survived the engine's destruction. Almost certainly, Tennyson confirmed grimly. He was already transforming into something beyond conventional physical limitations. The engine's collapse might have hurt him, but I doubt it destroyed him. Nalia, who had been monitoring dimensional readings throughout their absence, approached with her tablet displaying complex data streams. The convergence rate has decreased by approximately 97.4%, she reported. At current progression, complete universal merger would take approximately 143 years rather than 3 weeks. That's something, At least, Kazumi noted. Though her expression remained concerned. Time to find a permanent solution. Lena rejoined them, her communication with Time Patrol headquarters concluded. The Supreme Timekeeper has ordered continued monitoring of the situation, she informed them. With the immediate crisis averted, standard protocols resume, including restrictions on interdimensional travel. Her gaze fixed meaningfully on Tennyson. Which means you should be returned to your home universe as soon as possible. A moment of silence followed this pronouncement. Despite the logic behind it, the thought of Tennyson returning home created an unexpected weight in the atmosphere. Is that really necessary? Kazumi asked, her normally confident voice carrying a hint of uncertainty. His knowledge of Chronos could be invaluable if there's a second attempt at convergence. Temporal ordinance is clear, Lena replied, though her tone lacked its usual absolutism. Prolonged cross-universal presence increases instability risks. She hesitated, then added more personally, though I acknowledge the tactical advantage his continued presence might provide. Tennyson looked down at the Omnitrix, which had remained surprisingly quiet throughout this discussion. Its hourglass symbol pulsed with steady green light, occasional flickers of purple energy suggesting continued adaptation to this universe's unique properties. I'm not sure returning home is even possible right now, he said finally. The Omnitrix was changed by what happened in the demon realm. Its connection to both universes has become integral to its functioning. Severing that connection completely might damage it beyond repair. This technical consideration provided sufficient justification for what many of them wanted. More time to find a permanent solution, with Tennyson remaining as part of the team. I'll need to run comprehensive diagnostics, Nalia agreed, scientific curiosity providing convenient support for this conclusion. Forced dimensional transportation without proper understanding of the device's current state would be reckless. Lena sighed, recognizing the unified front forming before her. I will report that technical complications prevent immediate interdimensional transfer, she conceded. But the Time Patrol will expect regular updates on progress toward eventual return protocols. With the immediate question of Tennyson's departure temporarily resolved, attention turned to the broader implications of their mission's discoveries. What concerns me most, Bulma noted, reviewing the data they'd gathered. As Chronos' claim that the convergence will continue even without the engine to guide it. If he's right, we've only bought time, not solved the fundamental problem. He's right, Tennyson confirmed. The engine was accelerating and directing a process that had already begun naturally. Destroying it slowed the convergence dramatically but didn't stop the underlying mechanism. Then our focus must shift from prevention to controlled management, Nalia suggested, her scientific mind already formulating research protocols. If complete separation isn't possible, perhaps we can develop methods to allow stable coexistence between universal constants. As the scientists began elaborate technical discussions about research directions, Tennyson found himself drawn to a quieter corner of the laboratory. The adrenaline of the mission was fading, leaving exhaustion and the weight of unanswered questions in its wake. Kazumi joined him, her own fatigue visible beneath her composed exterior. For a moment, they simply stood in companionable silence, processing all that had occurred. Vess knew more than she told us, Kazumi finally said, giving voice to thoughts that had clearly been troubling her. Her connection to Chronos, her understanding of the Omnitrix, there were layers within layers to her involvement. I got that impression too, Tennyson agreed. But, whatever her hidden agenda might have been, she saved our lives at the end. That counts for something. Do you think she survived? The question hung between them, touching on deeper concerns about consequences and responsibilities. I don't know, Tennyson admitted. The demon realm operates under different rules than either of our universes. What would destroy us might only transform something like her. Another moment of silence passed before Kazumi spoke again, her voice carrying unusual hesitancy. So you're staying, at least for now. It seems that way, he replied, studying her expression. Is that a problem? No, she answered quickly, then with a hint of her usual directness added, it's actually good. You've become a valuable part of the team. The personal implication beneath the professional assessment wasn't lost on Tennyson. Their relationship had evolved from initial suspicion to grudging respect to something more complex that neither had taken time to properly define amid the constant crises. Further conversation was interrupted as Lena approached, her time patrol professionalism firmly back in place despite the ordeal they'd shared. "I've received updated instructions from headquarters," she informed them. "I'm to remain assigned to this investigation indefinitely, monitoring both the Convergence progression and," her eyes flicked briefly to the Omnitrix. "Potential interdimensional assets." The official terminology barely masked the personal element. Lena would be staying as well, her mission now expanded beyond simply resolving a temporal anomaly. Something in her experience in the demon realm had shifted her perspective, making this assignment as much personal choice as professional duty. Before either could respond, the laboratory's main doors opened to admit an unexpected visitor, Master Roshi, the elderly martial arts master they had met during Tennyson's first days in this universe. Despite the high security of Capsule Corporation, he moved through the facility with the casual confidence of someone welcome in any space he chose to enter. "I sensed your return," he explained by way of greeting, his expression more serious than his usual jovial demeanor. "And I sensed something else as well, a disturbance in the balance between realms that extends beyond the convergence we've been monitoring." "What kind of disturbance?" Tennyson asked, immediately alert to new threats. The old master's gaze was penetrating despite his seemingly relaxed posture. "The barriers between dimensions are thinning in ways unrelated to the main convergence process. Something, or someone, is creating additional connection points between realities." This revelation brought Bulma and Nalia over from their technical discussions, all attention now focused on this new development. Could it be residual effects from the convergence engine's destruction? Nalia suggested. Master Roshi shook his head. "These disturbances bear a distinct energy signature. One I haven't felt in over 3 centuries. His gaze met Tennyson's directly. "They resemble the energy your device emits when you transform, but with fundamental differences that suggest deliberate manipulation rather than natural occurrence." "Chronos survived," Kazumi concluded grimly. "And he's found another way to continue his work. Or someone else has taken advantage of the weakened dimensional barriers," Lena suggested. Her time patrol training offering alternative possibilities. "The convergence has created opportunities for entities who would normally lack the power to cross between universes." The implications rippled through the group, one crisis averted only to face another potentially more complex threat. Yet despite the gravity of this news, Tennyson felt something unexpected. A sense of purpose stronger than the uncertainty that had plagued him since arriving in this universe. "Whatever's coming," he said with quiet determination, "we'll face it together." His gaze moved from Kazumi to Lena, then to the others who had become allies and friends in this strange new reality. 2 universes, 1 team. The simple declaration carried weight beyond the words themselves. A commitment to this adopted world and its defenders that transcended dimensional boundaries. Whatever Chronos had intended by sending him here, Tennyson had found something the temporal manipulator hadn't anticipated. Connections that strengthened rather than weakened his resolve. As if responding to this realization, the Omnitrix pulsed with renewed energy, its hourglass symbol glowing with a perfect balance of green and purple light, no longer fighting between universal constants but harmonizing them. The device had evolved beyond its original programming, just as Tennyson himself had evolved beyond being merely a visitor in this reality. Outside the laboratory windows, the sun was setting over West City, painting the technological metropolis in hues of gold and shadow. In the fading light, Tennyson could almost imagine he saw the outline of 2 worlds superimposed, his original universe and this new one, distinct yet increasingly connected through his presence and actions. The convergence continued, slowed but not stopped. Chronos remained at large, damaged but not defeated. New threats emerged from the thinning barriers between dimensions. Yet in this moment of temporary respite, one truth stood clear amid the uncertainty. Some connections transcended universal boundaries. Some teams formed bonds that even the laws of reality couldn't easily break. And sometimes, finding ourself in a strange new world meant finding parts of yourself you never knew existed. As night fell over West City, plans were made, strategies developed, and a team unlike any other prepared for whatever might emerge from the spaces between universes. At the center of it all, the Galactic Omnitrix continued its evolution, a bridge between worlds that had become something greater than its creators ever intended. Not just a device for transformation, but a symbol of adaptation. Not merely a tool, but a testament to the possibility that even the most fundamental differences between universes could be harmonized rather than erased. The battle for two universes had only just begun. Blank, blank. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.